The cringe is forcing my skeleton out of my body like toothpaste from a tube.
Her taking the suit off is part of the magic, but once she's done it, I don't know, like, you know.
There are accusations out there that I am obsessed with buckets in video games. And those accusations are true.
Boom charcuterie! He's got a point value. Here at Second Wind, we sure do like talking, but not everyone wants to look at us while we talk. Well, good news! Our podcasts like Windbreaker, Firelink, DevHeads, and The Rewind, plus audio-only episodes of Fully Ramblematic and Adventure is Nigh are all on Spotify or your PPP, and that's your preferred podcast platform.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rewind, episode number 49 for Tuesday, June 30th, 2026. Marty Sleever here, joined by Darren Mooney, Jack Packard, and producer Eric. We're one episode away from 50. Our Odyssey episode, in theory, will be our 50th episode. Very exciting.
Very exciting.
I should call it the Evency.
That is insane. What an insane thing to say right at the start of a podcast. The Evency? This isn't going to help you get that Odyssey screening. But welcome, everyone, back to The Rewind. We have a jam-packed show for y'all today. We saw Supergirl. We're going to talk about that. As promised, Jack, are you caught up on Widow's Bay? Have you officially?
I've watched all of Widow's Bay. I've watched Supergirl. Everything has been watched. Those are the only two things.
Everything has been watched, including 10 Things I Hate About You. The big three have finally been watched. We'll talk about all those and everything else we've been watching. And as a scheduling note, we're jostling around our July schedule, theoretically, a little bit just so we can be timely with two specific big movies. So we're actually going to take an extra week off between now and the next episode. So we're not going to do an episode on the 7th, won't be doing an episode on the 14th, but we will be back on the 21st, which will be the weekend after, or the Tuesday after the Odyssey. That'll be our big Odyssey episode. Then no episode the 28th, and then August 4th we'll be back for a big Spider-Man episode. So that'll be the first Tuesday after Spider-Man. And then we'll figure out in August if we revert back to the old off-week schedule or a new off-week schedule, but we'll figure all that out. But we figured those are probably the two biggest movies of the summer, and we definitely want to be able to talk about those while the cooking's hot. That's a saying, right? While the cooking's hot.
I do feel like we're missing like Moana. That's the thing. That's the only thing that
are we missing it? Is that the term we're going with?
Adjust the schedule. It's like we don't get to talk about Moana, the live action remaster. Yes.
You know what's I've never seen Moana. Never saw the animated one.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good. It's very good. Yeah.
Are we excited about this live action one? Dwayne Johnson.
That's one of those, like, the Moana soundtrack is one that I just kind of listen to in my free time. It's a great soundtrack. I am not going to see the live action one.
Yeah.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, right?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. But, we're not here to talk about Moana.
What? We're not.
And we won't be either.
I'm on the wrong podcast, everyone.
We are here. Let's start with Supergirl. We'll start on the big screen before we zoom in to the small screen. Supergirl, the latest film in the DCEU, the DCU. What is it officially called?
I think it's officially the DCU because the DCEU is the unofficial name of the Snyder filmies.
That's right.
I think this is just more directly the DC universe.
Drop the E, it's cleaner. Supergirl released this weekend in theaters, directed by Craig Gillespie, starring Millie Alcock. I would say released to a lukewarm response, and I would say overall confusion of like, is this shared universe actually gonna stick around? But Jack, you saw it last night. What did brief thoughts? What did you think of Supergirl before we dig into it?
I don't want this to sound cruel, but I think it's going to sound cruel. But it's one of those movies where you watch it and you go, "Oh, I understand why it's bombing." Like it's fine. It's nothing more than fine, and it has a fair amount of flaws to it. Where, without spoiling anything, because I think this is pretty obvious. It is a movie about Kara Zor-El, Supergirl, being comfortable on her new home on Earth, and it is a movie that does not take place on Earth. That's just like a baseline problem. Is like I want to be comfortable in my new home. We're just not going to be there for the whole dang movie.
Yeah, we will be there for one flashback, and we will be there for the final 60 seconds of the movie. Yeah. Darren, you had a big backdrop go up this morning, partly about Supergirl, but as most backdrops are, about a whole mess of other stuff. What did you think of Supergirl?
Shockingly, I actually didn't hate it. I quite enjoyed it. I mean, I think Jack's entirely correct. It has very serious problems, very serious, very fundamental issues. It doesn't look good is like one of the big notes that I have here. It suffers a great deal from the standard superhero stuff of having a completely nonsense CGI gloop final act, and then having a even more CGI gloop final act on top of the CGI gloop final act. It is very clearly a movie that has been cut to within an inch of its life. One of the jarring things having watched this movie is that there are several points where there are jokes that rely on there being beats, where the beats have been cut out to get this movie in theaters under 2 hours. There's a moment where like a character falls down and Supergirl helps her up, and she says, "You could have done that sooner." And I'm like, you fell down a quarter of a second ago. You clearly, like, the scene that I am watching is not the scene as it was shot. And there are like various continuity errors and ending stuff as well, where it's like a character will like enter the door and then sit down at a table, and it's like there was a sequence of a character crossing the room, but they were like, no, has to be cut. There's an entire subplot with Lobo that feels like it was trimmed or removed, etc. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can tell from either watching the trailers or from how the movie's structured, or even behind the scenes stuff that was like clearly tinkered with. I mean, there's reports coming out about like the final needle drop being like chosen something within like hours of the premiere of the movie, which is always a great sign. So like that, with all of that said, right, which is a very important, those are all very important qualifications
kind
to
of
make.
a big deal, Darren.
Yes, kind of a big deal, right? And what I'm about to say, I did find myself weirdly charmed by it, in the sense of like, it is a movie that, despite all of the stuff that I just mentioned, which is stuff that is designed to get it down a factory assembly line and into the shape of a recognizable piece of product or content, it still somehow, to my mind, to me at least, managed to retain like a weirdly distinct identity. I found myself watching it and thinking, this is a bizarrely morbid superhero movie. It is a movie that is fascinated with things like death and loss and mourning and suffering and pain and decay and decline and the end of empire, which is really fascinating to do in the context of a brand, a franchise, and a genre that has largely sold itself as, gee, look, we're having a fun time here. And I did have to say, like, watching the movie, I found that tension really interesting and kind of oddly compelling in it. I found myself like strangely engaged with the oddness of this movie in a way that, like, you know, I think a lot of the discussion of it is kind of overlooking. Where like the reception to this has been, you know, I think you very politely and diplomatically phrase it as mixed. It is perhaps more accurate to say that the response to this has been existential, not just in terms of like the state of the shared universe. Thank you, Eric, for the cup. One of the more confusing.
Show the other angle, you coward.
Yes. One of the.
There it is.
Okay, yeah, there it is. Like one of the most weirdly sexualized food containers served in a cinema since the Dune 2 popcorn bucket. But the point is, the point is though that like, feels like this has become kind of a lightning rod for a discussion that is broader in culture. And it just feels like we were always going to have the conversation that we are currently having around Supergirl, which is, are these movies sustainable? Is this studio sustainable? Is this model of production sustainable? But it kind of just feels like Supergirl, which, to Jack's point, I don't think is especially good. I don't think is great. I don't think is a masterpiece. But I've sat through worse superhero movies in the past year. I have sat through far worse superhero movies in the past
Darren,
year.
we have sat through worse DC movies. We have sat through worse DC movies with the word super in them.
We're thinking of different ones, Jack, but yes. But my point is more that it really does feel like kind of culturally there's this game of musical chairs that's been going on where something has been balancing precariously at the top of like a peak, just going back and forth over and over. And there was always going to be a moment where the music stopped. And it does feel like, unfortunately for everybody involved in production of Supergirl, unfortunately for James Gunn, it really does feel like the music just stopped dead silent with this, which is really interesting culturally.
Oh, go ahead, Marty.
Oh, no, I was just going to say really quick. It's one of those movies that before going in on paper, the movie had everything that I kind of wanted in a movie like this. The idea that it's like a kind of an intergalactic road trip built on the bones of kind of classic Western stories, specifically something like True Grit, starring like a kind of a boozy mess of a 20-something going through like a quarter-life existential crisis. I like that. Like, I think that is a cool framework. And apparently I have not read the comic it's based on, which is beloved, right?
A masterpiece. The comic book is a masterpiece.
Sure. Yes. So I have not read that, but like everything on paper is something I should love. And it felt like so many decisions in the movie took the movie from like, I'm kind of already here, and kept chipping away at it. And it didn't get me to like subnuclear levels. Like I would say overall I'm a slightly on the warmer side of this movie, but my God, some of the decisions and some of these needle drops and just the way some of the movie looks and those massive leaps and character beats and kind of just not understanding what the theme of the movie is. Hurt it quite a bit. I did really like Millie Alcock though, and I've got a lot of time for her. I thought she was amazing in House of the Dragon, and I just wish she had something better to work with than this. Yeah,
It's like to me, this is less kind of like going to Darren, your and Jesse's wonderful video. I assume Jesse edited it. I didn't know if you did. I'm sorry.
No, that was a Darren joint.
That's a Darren joint. Sorry. Well then, falsely attributing praise to
I feel like you saw that it looked good and we're like, that's a Jesse. Jesse
couldn't possibly be Darren.
Jesse Schwab. I'm sorry, Jesse Schwab. But okay, no, Darren's wonderful backdrop. Kind of like comparing this to the Westerns. But like the segment that you pulled in there of James Gunn just saying people are tired of mediocre movies, and at the end of the day, that's what we got here. Mm-hmm. Seemingly the most baffling decision within the script writing, within the storytelling, is this movie isn't about Supergirl necessarily. It spends so much time on the little girl that she's saving that we barely kind of understand what Supergirl is as a contrast to Superman, let alone the whole the thing that I said at the start, which is this is a movie about her wanting to find a home on Earth that does not take place on Earth, which I do think is incredibly that's a slap in the face of storytelling. Take place on Earth if you want the end of your movie to be like, I want to be happy on Earth.
There is something. When I moved from Wisconsin to California, I left with a very low regard of Wisconsin. I was like, I was done living in the Midwest. I needed to get out of there. When I moved back, I fucking loved Wisconsin. So I think maybe there is something of you need to like lose something for a while. Yeah, before you realize what it actually meant to you. I do not think the movie communicates that though. I don't know why she changes throughout the movie. I don't think seemingly because of her relationship with the girl, but that's not really a relationship. Like there's just a couple scenes together. Like they don't do anything. Like they don't grow because of each other, or there's no really friction between them. It's very strange.
You're forgetting that there's a gigantic exposition scene in the middle of the movie where they just lay out Kara's entire backstory in a sequence that was clearly meant to be dropped slowly throughout the movie, building to the climax, but they just decided to lump it all in a 5-minute blob in the middle. I think like Jack is onto something here. Like, and again, I'm always wary of doing this because it's like adaptation is an art form like any other. My issue isn't that like the movie is not like exactly beat for beat Tom King and Bilky Eveley's like Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. That's not the complaint I'm about to make, right?
Yeah.
But the issue is that this movie is clearly doing True Grit, right? And the thing about True Grit is, and this is one of the problems with like working within a factory assembly line superhero process. True Grit is the story of Matty Ross, right? Rooster Cogburn is in the movie. Rooster Cogburn is a character in the movie. You know, obviously John Wayne won his Oscar for playing him. Jeff Bridges got an Oscar nomination for playing him. Like, we love Rooster Cogburn. He's an iconic character. But the story is the story of Matty. It is the story of Matty leaving home, going on a journey, having an adventure, encountering this man, having her view of the world and this man change, and then coming home at the end transformed, right?
Yes.
And that is what the comic understands about True Grit, where the comic is told and narrated from Ruthie's perspective, and it has this kind of, again, very wonderful, very lyrical, you know, it's a reminiscence of somebody as an adult looking back on an adventure they had as a child. The Coen Brothers movie does an exceptional job of this, where it is the story, it's like, it is somebody in middle age looking back on their life as a kid, this thing that happened as a kid, which was really weird, but I was a kid, so I didn't quite process it in the way that it was. And that is what the comic is about, and the comic ends up using that to be like, but what is Silver Age Supergirl? What is the concept of Supergirl in the context of like Silver Age comic books in the 1960s, where it's this beautiful, colorful thing that is full of like dragons and green suns and dogs and horses, but underneath it is this profound melancholy informed by the fact that this was written in a decade where America was on the brink of nuclear annihilation. We were within living memory of the Second World War. The Cold War was raging. You know, civil rights movements were coming in. All that stuff was underneath the surface of these beautiful, bright technicolor drawings we were making, and we didn't understand it. That is what the comic is, to me, fundamentally about and fundamentally dealing with. And it's brilliant, and it's beautiful, and it's profoundly moving. I think it's like one of the great comic books. I think Gunn is entirely right to single it out as one of the great comic books. The problem is, you cannot make a movie like that in the context of a modern shared universe, because the lead character in your Supergirl movie needs to be Supergirl. Supergirl in your Supergirl movie cannot exist in the same way that Rooster Cogburn does in True Grit, or that Kara does in the comic book, where she is an entirely constructed object. And you can see that tension in the movie, where there are several sequences, which I honestly think are conceptually great. I think the last one is visually disastrous, but conceptually interesting, which is like during like several action beats, the camera will close in on Ruthie as like the action is happening around her. It happens early in the bar, and it happens again at the climax in the middle of the big CGI mud thing that is awful to look at. But on paper, those are good ideas, because it's like, what is it like to be an ordinary person who is witnessing something like this? Particularly a child who is witnessing, somebody who's never left home, to be confronted with something that's strange and bizarre. The problem is, because this is a factory assembled superhero movie that has to serve as the second in a loose trilogy of Superman movies in the context of launching a shared universe that is clearly designed to run for a decade plus. Who knows if it will or not? Darren says, crossing his fingers. You have to then also cut away from that to be like, oh, and by the way, Kara has a character arc, and Kara has interiority, and Kara does this stuff, and Kara is going to go home to Earth, and she's going to be in Man of Tomorrow, don't you worry at all. And it's like, that betrays the fundamental principle of the story that you are trying to tell. And I don't mean that in a, like, you're adapting Woman Tomorrow, you have to do the letter of the text. I even mean in terms of, like, you're referencing True Grit, which is what Gillespie's singling out. And
Right.
True Grit is a nostalgic remembrance of something. And you can't do a nostalgic remembrance of something that you're like, and by the way, turn out next summer for Man of Tomorrow.
Sure.
Like, it's a tension that can't be resolved, which is, I think, is like really interesting in the movie.
And it leaves you, as an audience member, you feel a bit of like ennui towards the narrative as it tries to have a square fit into a circle peg. It's very, very strange.
I think it's also tough, like centering like a lot of the core emotion and arcs of the movie on a child actor who I've never seen in anything.
Eve Ridley,
is because a child actor can go one way, and nothing against Eve Ridley, but like we've had some examples of recent stories, whether it's movies like Logan or shows like The Last of Us, or even Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
Cohen's True Grit with Haley Steinfeld. That is a revelatory performance.
Oh yeah, that was I can't expect it to be that good, but like those other examples, at least like the person feels like a real character. Like she just didn't feel like a real character. She was just running around with a sword and upset that her parents got killed. Understandably, I would also be upset if I saw my parents get murdered.
All that nonsense stuff. Like,
yeah,
but
you
that's
just
also
inherited
because
a farm. You should be happy. Sorry.
we just weren't given enough time with her.
Yeah.
Just like we weren't given enough time with Supergirl because they kept trying to balance. They kept trying to balance something that fundamentally did not work. It's Spork all over again.
Yeah,
They
and part of it makes me wonder.
So hard.
Did that is there some version of the movie where that death didn't come until 45 minutes into the movie, so you got to spend actual time with her and her family not being murdered, and so you're like, oh, I'm growing attached to these people, and now they're taken away from me. But they wanted to cut the movie down to an hour 45, which I guess is good. Like, I don't think the
more
movie
screenings so that people can go see them, you know, in the opening weekend. It's
and I don't think
it always works, right?
It definitely worked here. I don't know. I rewatched Superman as well for the first time since last summer, right before this, and that's another weird movie to where I think there are parts of the movie and parts of its structure that are brilliant, but it also kind of feels like a mess to me. Like, I love the opening of the Super. I love the kind of the time countdown, and it's shrinking in duration of like, and then 5 minutes ago, Superman got his ass kicked for the first time. Like, what a cool opening. But maybe it's a little downhill after that.
Okay, I don't want to.
I love that you're like 5 seconds into the movie. It's like,
and it's all downhill from there. As someone who really enjoyed the Corn Sweat Superman movie and also rewatched it kind of in preparation. Okay, do you want me to? We can either get into some heady. Like a heady debate topic about like the role of women in superheroes, or we can talk about shit, piss, and vomit. Which route do you want to go first?
We do
let's
both.
Start low and let's go
Jackass.
high.
Like, we can do both.
All right.
You can involve women and have piss and vomit. Like,
something that I thought, shit, piss, and vomit. Something that I thought was very strange about the movie was the amount of piss, shit, and vomit that we saw in the movie, especially in the opening run. Like the very opening shot has Crypto pissing on a newspaper in Kara's white trash hillbilly van.
She's
living van life. Hashtag van life.
She's another nomad, like from the movie Nomadland or Passenger. Remember Passenger? Everybody remembers Passenger.
Yeah, everyone remembers Passenger.
All to say, there is a shocking amount of pissing and vomiting in the movie, which I understand is like we want to portray Supergirl as a bit of. Thank you, Eric, for finding.
How the fuck did you find that?
Like, that's so.
Eric had that saved and ready to go. He was just like count down until one of them references it.
But like, you know, there's a point in which we actively hear Supergirl pissing. There is several characters that vomit on screen, and it from going from Corn Sweat Superman to Supergirl, kind of that lighthearted, like this is a Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning cartoon feeling, to piss, shit, and vomit was definitely a harsh tonal shift for me.
I like that the characters are different, though. Like, I do like that the characters are different. I'm not saying like I want to live in piss and shitville, but I do like that she's kind of a mess and Superman kind of has his shit together. I mean, he's older than her, so that makes sense.
That you can do both things. I mean, I will say it like we talk about the edit being jarring. It is very clear that like there was, at least until the last minute, I don't want to say substantially bloodier, but like a bloodier cut of the movie where like you can tell a lot of the violence has been cut to within an inch of its life.
Yes.
There's a moment where Lobo beheads a guy and they literally remove like 8 frames of footage so that you can't see the actual beheading. And there's like another moment where she like breaks a guy's head against like a bunch of bars, and that is cut around as well. And I understand why that is, because these are sequences where a child is present. And even though you can get away with a lot in terms of a PG rating, I think like Nolan's work on the Batman trilogy is astonishingly violent for a PG-rated movie. We don't see pencils going into eyes, but pencils go into eyes. I do think like that was something that was really jarring. Was that like I didn't mind the scruffiness. I'm very fond of the idea that like both of those extremes can exist in the same way that they do in comics. One of my big issues with like the MCU is that everything is tonally exactly the same. And everything is kind of on the same wavelength, and everything looks and feels the same. And I know that one of my problems with this movie is that it does look the same. It has the same visual style of so many of those movies. But I think that tonally, much like the like orgy at the start of the second season of Peacemaker was like a declaration of intent of like, we contain multitudes, Jack. I like that Supergirl has that kind of like, PG-13 edgy teenage boy, teenage girl thing of like, yeah, we're going to show her peeing. I mean, it is a bigger issue though that like no teenagers want to go see this movie because superhero movies are old and passé and they're all going to see Obsession and Backrooms. That is the fatal flaw with the movie, but I don't begrudge it trying to be a little more teen-centric, you know?
Maybe it's just that dissonance between kind of that and the rest of the look and feel of the movie being so, like you say, factory formed. And then they're like, yeah, but this factory's got piss and shit and puke. Think about that.
That's a whole different factory. You're not going to see that in an Amazon factory because they have to do that in bottles.
Demoted or like promoted to the piss and shit factory. Yeah. Like, how does it work? It's like,
is that an upgrade?
Yeah. It's like you call in the office, like, we need you to report the piss and shit factory. Like, is this, am I being rewarded or punished? What's going on?
Okay, so we got the poo-poo and pee-pee out of the way.
Got the poo-poo and pee-pee out of the way.
What was your higher brow discussion?
Here's my higher brow thinking is, as someone who really liked the Corn Sweat Superman because of its Saturday morning cartoon vibes, because of the lightness of it all, going from that to and this I might be a little out of my depth here, so I'm just going to put this out here and we'll see, because sometimes people think I'm wrong. So we have a female fronted summer blockbuster superhero movie.
Versus on a podcast talk about women. Let's do this.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're doing here. It's going to be great. Versus Superman, a male-fronted summer blockbuster movie. The male-fronted movie is just guy punches other dude, punches robots, having a good time. Everybody's having a good laugh about it. The female-fronted superhero movie also has incredibly like barbaric and deep things of like, a woman's place in the universe, sex trafficking,
child abuse, yes,
violence against women. And so to me, it just, again, I understand we are living in different tones, but this is Supergirl to Superman. And so it did seem like extra pressure was being put on the female fronted superhero movie to have kind of loftier things to say about the universe. I take a pause now.
I'm going to say something controversial, and I'm willing to accept that this is Darren's issues with James Gunn's Superman coming to the fore. But while I agree with you in practice that Superman 2025 did not actually have lofty things to say about the state of the world and the universe, I do think it thought it had lofty things to say about the state of the like it was wading into things like America's relationship with the larger world. It was wading into things like the existence of Guantanamo Bay. It was wading into things like Elon Musk's involvement in Ukraine. I don't think that it followed through on any of those ideas, and I think that like it was so vague in doing that it ended up kind of stumbling ass backwards into like retroactively justifying the Iran war. But like I do okay, that was too far. I'm gonna reel that in. I apologize.
At least it taught us what's real punk rock. We didn't know beforehand, and now we do. It's being nice.
But again, the Superman movie is doing things like Great Replacement Theory and stuff like that. I don't think it's doing it well. I don't think it's doing it clearly. I don't think it's doing it in any way that it has like a clearly articulated perspective that is worth engaging with. But it is doing that. And I think that like Supergirl is doing that as well. And I think like it is entirely fair to say that Supergirl is also not unpacking the idea of like super powered Epstein Island or whatever it is that's going on there. But like it is doing the same sort of stuff. I don't see them as being too tonally divorced from one another, if that makes sense. Maybe. And
I agree. Both set out to, I think, say capital S something, and I'm not sure they actually were able to say something, as opposed to, I think something like Thunderbolts kind of succeeded in what its mission statement was, to talk about, trauma and found family and your
depression post 9/11.
Yeah, exactly. You're not the product of your worst day. Like you can move past that and yeah, I think these movies tried to do that, and I don't think they've quite succeeded, either of them. And I don't know, I'm not 100% sure why, because I feel like Guardians of the Galaxy and the The Suicide Squad? That was his.
Yeah, that's his.
I feel like all three of those had something to say, and all four of those
Four,
succeeded in what they had to say.
Oh yeah, I'm a big
so I'm not sure what happened here.
Even Peacemaker, and
absolutely.
like Creature Commandos, like I think have things to say and do say things about that. I don't like. Part of me is we don't need to reopen the Superman debate. Darren says he grabs the crowbar and reopens the Superman debate. But like my concern is like, is James Gunn a better writer and director than he is a producer? Like. My issue with like Superman that like it's Gunn with his producer hat going to Gunn the director. Can't do that. You can go that far in that direction, but we need to establish a shared universe here, baby. And I do wonder if that's maybe some of the stuff that's going on here.
I mean, right? Not every writer director is a good producer. Not every producer is a good producer of multiple IP shared universes.
Yeah.
Even if he's a good producer, now you have to. Not everyone can be Kevin Feige. In fact,
even Kevin Feige is not Kevin Feige.
He's having trouble being Kevin Feige again. Yeah.
Well, he's had to step down from the Kevin Feige-ness of it all. Sure. It's at the end of the day, this just didn't feel very Supergirl, and that's. But I guess the point that I was trying to make was there seemed to be a lightness missing from the Supergirl, and even if we are going for someone who's a little trashier and a little less put together, it was that Saturday morning tone that I dug so much that I felt was kind of weirdly. Like more onus was put on the girl than the guy is kind of like trying to pare it down to its simplest forms.
I think like there is a problem with like, and again, this is where we get into the like silly talking about things that are bigger than this movie and the movie being doomed by things that are bigger than this movie, which is two things are true simultaneously, right? And let's get the bad thing out of the way first. The one of the issues with this movie, which is like, if you're doing a female-centric superhero movie as the second movie in your superhero universe, maybe Supergirl is a bad choice. In the same way that maybe Batgirl would be a bad choice. In that, like, those are female characters who are defined primarily, right? I'm not saying exclusively, I'm not saying solely, but primarily by their relationship to a pre-existing male hero, right? Which is... You know, so it's not like doing Wonder Woman, who at least is her own character, or even you go across the street to Marvel, but even pick an X-Men, like thanks to Chris Claremont, like pick Storm. You could do a Storm movie and you wouldn't be like, well, she's defined by Cyclops. Whereas this is a movie where your female character who you're investing agency in, who you're following, who you care about, who has like a big arc that's supposed to power the movie, wears a brand that is given to her by her older cousin because he tells her that she should wear it. And it's like, it's very hard to tell an empowering female story where your lead female character gets told by a cameoing character from a movie released last summer that she's got to get in the fucking suit and sort her shit out and get back to Earth so that she can be in my stupid sequel. And I do think like that is a fundamental problem with doing this movie in this way second, right? That is the first thing that is true. The counterpoint to that, and like this is the thing where I am maybe more generous to this movie than I should be, and I'm maybe more compassionate and empathetic and understanding of why it is the way that it is I also think that Gunn completely understands that if he's doing something, he needs to finish it quickly, or he needs to get it to a point where it can be finished quickly. Because it's like, there is a massive company that is buying his company. There is the superhero genre is in decline. There is no way that David Ellison, head of Skydance, has enough good taste to recognize that he does not have the good taste to run his own superhero universe. And so like, one of the things that Gunn has been doing, and I think it is the smart decision, I think it is the right choice. Gunn has been primarily focused on following his arcs as close to his conclusion as he can. So, for example, The Suicide Squad gives way to 2 seasons of Peacemaker and Creature Commandos. And when that is all done, that will be a single project. Superman leads into Superman last summer, Supergirl this summer and Man of Tomorrow next summer. By the way, no live action projects confirmed for DC Studios past that point. Also, not coincidentally, around the time the Paramount acquisition of Warner Brothers will close. So like, I am also understanding of the fact that he can't just go make a Wonder Woman movie in that slot. That doing make a Wonder Woman movie in that slot would be a terrible choice for any number of reasons. So I understand why he chooses Supergirl, but I also understand that choosing Supergirl in this slot is like a really poisoned chalice. And like, I say that as somebody who really likes Supergirl, who thinks Supergirl's a really interesting character, but you put Supergirl on a poster and they're just like, it's Superman in a skirt. She's the derivative knockoff. But
the problem is Superman landed kind of like, I don't know, with a thud. Like, it didn't, even the people who really like it. No, it did okay. Yeah, there's people who like it. Like, it's not an unmitigated disaster, but it is not Iron Man 1. It is not one of those things where it's like, holy shit, I need to see what's next. And so when your next movie is a literal cousin to the movie that people weren't super hot on to begin with, like, well, that's not going to be good. You're clearly going to get diminishing returns from something that already felt a little bit, underwhelming.
Yeah, so, like, again, want to be clear, Superman did okay last year. It was the highest grossing superhero movie last year. It was the 10th highest grossing movie of the year, which is a very low ranking for the highest grossing superhero movie of the year, but it's still not nothing. But it's also less than Man of Steel made in 2013, non-adjusted for inflation. It is also less than The Devil Wears Prada 2 made this year. It's less than Spider-Man's going to make this year. It's less than Avengers is going to make this year. It is a solid performance. It's also less than The Batman, the 3-hour crime movie from Matt Reeves made. But it is not like a jet super-powered, let's build a franchise. Let's build this like shared universe. And I think, like, to give Gunn credit, like, again, I am sympathetic to Gunn. I think, like, Gunn is in an untenable situation as the head of the studio. I like Gunn a lot. Like, Superman is quite literally, for me, the only Gunn project. Well, apart from Movie 43. It's Movie 43 and Superman. What a great group to be in. Those are the only two James Gunn projects that did not really work for me. But he's in, like, an unwinnable situation here where he was gifted the keys to the palace at a time when the superhero genre is in massive decline, to the point where, again, even the advertising for Wonder Man is like, we're trying to fight superhero fatigue here. But also, like, when his studio is being fattened up to be bought by a larger conglomerate that is going to have their own plans for what they want to do with these characters. And, let's whisper it very quietly, may not be ideologically in line with how Gunn feels about particular things. I don't imagine Donald Trump's best friend's son is going to be particularly excited to have, like, James Gunn running their big superhero franchise. I don't know. Like, I do think it's an untenable, unwinnable situation. And part of me is, like, I have friends who are big fans of this stuff. I have friends who love this stuff to death. And my attitude is generally just, like, enjoy it while it lasts without sounding grim. And, like, enjoy the good stuff that you get, where it's like, I enjoyed Peacemaker. I enjoyed Creature Commandos. It's like, I enjoyed the Suicide Squad. I'm hoping I enjoy Man of Tomorrow. Who knows how that's going to work? But it's like, I'm not buying stock. I'm not like buying a George R.R. Martin book on the promise that at some point I will get book 7 and 8. I'm like, this is all borrowed time. And like, just make the best things you can. I wish they were better, but like, just, I realize that you're on a treadmill. Like, you were on a treadmill just trying to get it done. Yeah.
And I think, like, along those lines, though, like, to me, the biggest failure of Supergirl is, like, if it is going to be part 2 of your Superman trilogy, you can't do True Grit. Like, that's... Which, yes, I know it's kind of based on this very beloved comic book, this beloved Supergirl comic book, but it is at odds with the story that you are trying to tell.
Or we kind of have to know who she is for a few movies before you go.
Or like, you shit,
they're doing True Grit with her. That's kind of neat.
Right.
Like, yeah,
I mean, like Logan. So it's like, again, would Logan have worked as well if we didn't have the association of like 17 years of Hugh Jackman in the role?
Right.
No, I mean, that's the thing is we talk about how frustrating it is that so much feels like it needs to be built on the foundation of so much that came beforehand. But sometimes the only reason a thing works is because of that. And granted, I think that is a minority. That is not a majority of the times. that happens. I think Logan is one of the rare exceptions where having all that baggage is what makes the movie work. I think most of the time baggage is baggage.
Like, and to me, like the extra frustrating part is the pieces were already there for a fun and decent Supergirl movie. She's on Earth and not having a good time because Clark's a nerd Boy Scout. So she goes off to space, meets Lobo, who just loves murdering everyone, and she has to find her place somewhere in between. And it's like the movie's there. Just we got it. Yeah.
Also, we touched on it only briefly, but my God, that third act was ugly. Like it was filmed in the same brown dust bowl as The Flash's third act, as even honestly Endgame's third act.
Renting it out, yeah.
But at least Endgame had like, all right, this feels like all these characters are finally getting their moment. But I'm like, why does this shit have to be so ugly? And I get it. It's because there's limited time, limited budget, and they're working people to the bone. But man, think of something else to end the movie. Like Thunderbolts ended on a hug, and I remember it.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, Thunderbolts is, like, for my mind, the best live action superhero movie since Guardians 3. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't feel like anything in the genre has come close, which is really interesting because, like, for all we're talking about superhero fatigue, I think superhero television has been quite good generally. But it is the movies are quite bad. And, like, I do think that, like, yeah, we need a change. We need like a paradigm shift. We need like something that just redefines how these movies work. Because again, this is the interesting thing about the reaction to this is like the reaction to Supergirl, which to be honest, again, I was reasonably charmed by the movie. I had a good time with it. I like, perhaps because I went in with low expectations, perhaps because I see the problems with the movie as existing in the context of the problems of every superhero movie that is released in the past like 5 years or so. But like, I do find myself wondering, like, this genre needs something like the spaghetti westerns or the new Hollywood musical. Like you reach a point where like the form it's been in this form for 18 years, and you've been producing 4 or 5 versions of this across different studios. And sure, you occasionally end up with something that is like wild and different, like the Nolan trilogy, like Logan, like the Spider-Verse movies, right? But by and large, like the distance between, and this is going to make a lot of people very angry, but like the distance between something like Craven and the distance between something like Endgame is not insurmountably large in terms of what they are doing narratively and how they are produced. Craven also features a lot of scenes shot in that CGI void. They just swapped it out for the same background that they used in like Black Panther and Infinity War. When I made that comment, I got a reply online from somebody, and I apologize for like singling them out. I don't mean to do that, but like I got a reply from somebody who's like, I think your comments about how superhero movies have started to feel all the same are very unfair. I mean, if you think about it, like Marvel in the space of like 2018, 2019, they released Black Panther, they released Infinity War, and they released Endgame, and those are 3 radically different movies. And I'm like, CGI finale in a field in Wakanda. CGI finale in a field in Wakanda. CGI finale in a red field. And it's like, they're not. They are the same basic structure being applied. And it is the exact same here, where it's like, and like, this is frustrating because we talk about the third act of Supergirl. Final spoilers, jump ahead 30 seconds if you haven't seen the movie.
But also, it's a superhero movie. You know how it's going to end.
I did like the one choice they actually made at the ending. Really liked, there is, after all that CGI nonsense, which goes on far too long in a movie that is an hour and 45 minutes, you do not need 15 minutes of CGI. And the thing is, like, the CGI nonsense, which takes place on the ship crashes, and you're like, oh, thank goodness we're finally at the CGI nonsense. That's like, no, because there are tanks and bikes. So I hope you're ready for even more CGI
tanks
nonsense.
And bikes in a dusty field.
And they're going to go around really fast so we can reshoot all this on green screen. And like, there's a really emotional conversation between Supergirl and like Ruthie, which takes place where it's very clear the 2 actors are not on set at the same time, and they're not in a real location. And it's like, you know, Supergirl's making this, if you kill this guy, it will be a stain on your soul. And Millie Alcock is doing the best that she can. But I'm like, no, like, why couldn't you just go into a field? And why couldn't you use something that wasn't shallow focus to like shoot this conversation that's happening between these 2? And it's really frustrating because the final beat of that scene, which is like what happens after Supergirl convinces Ruthie to walk away. after Supergirl goes and she talks to Krem. That beat to me is like a genuinely interesting note or grace note to put on a superhero film, because it asks you to like consider what a superhero film is, what its relationship to a Western is. And like, part of me is like, that is the only possible ending that this story could ever have. And a large part of the tension of the movie is me waiting for the movie to get to that point and not chicken out of it. Because I'm up until when I watched it the first time, which implies that I've watched it several times. I have watched it twice. But when I watched it the first time, I spent that entire act going like, they're going to wuss out. There's only one possible ending to this movie, and they're going to pull back at the last minute. And they don't. And like, to Jack's point about like tone and tonal balance and tonal variance, I was really satisfied with that. Because again, we don't need to reopen the Superman debate. One of my big issues with Superman is that
he should kill Zod.
Yeah, and like snap his neck maybe. Like, what if he snipped his neck? But like, is that Superman has a similar crisis in its third act where there is a character who maybe needs to die, and the film is like, but audiences won't let Superman do it. And it's like, what if a third character shows up and kills him? And I'm like, no, no, movie, you don't get to do that. You either make the choice to do the bold and brave thing that you feel needs to be done and to have me feel uncomfortable about it, or you don't do it and you don't get credit for it. And I think that Superman whiffs that. And I think that like Supergirl, which introduces the character of Lobo, who I spend a large portion of the movie going, does Lobo exist solely to outsource the ending that this movie needs to have to him?
Yes.
And then the movie has the guts to follow through on the ending that it needs to have.
I also assumed Lobo was going to be like the Sin Eater for them.
Yeah.
To be like, I'll do this, whatever. It's just another.
But to your point about it being cut down to the bone, this incredible moment at the end, which I agree is an incredible moment at the end, is given no room to breathe, is given no meat to chew on whatsoever. It doesn't give us time to sit with the implications of this, to give the actors a moment to kind of act how they feel about this situation. It's very upsetting. It's very upsetting.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about something positive about the movie. If I
thought you were just gonna be like Widow's Bay.
No, that's really positive. Let's start
because like overall, I did feel fine about this movie. I think it has an immense amount of problems that we've all talked about here. Yep. But I do think overall, and I am a sucker for the superhero movies. I am a fan of almost all of the superhero movies. Even Craven's got a little place in my heart. But
we can all make room for Craven in our heart.
We can all make room for Craven. I'm a sucker for these movies, Craven. So I think it was fine overall. One standout point is that bus action set piece in which we get a nice superhero action set piece that revolves a little teleporter button. Supergirl's teleporting and getting into all sorts of shenanigans while trying to kind of hangoverly fight a group of bus mercenary or thieves.
Yeah, it's like train robbers.
Yeah. Train robbers. And you know what? That was a really fun sequence, and I really liked that. Not all of the action sequences were great. And when I watch these movies, how I feel about superhero comics, how I feel about superhero movies is these are action sci-fi movies.
Yep.
And so, but the action's overall relatively mild and lame. Like Darren had mentioned, both here and in his video, there are some wonderful attempts at interesting action set pieces that focus on the character not in the action, and the action takes place in the background. But this action set piece I thought was rather fun and nice, and I liked it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
You get the scene of like Ruthie looking out the window and seeing her move. Like again, like which is something I really feel is missing from superhero movies, is the sense of like, oh my god, this is incredible and terrifying.
Yes,
the bit where like she's just ripping the spiders off the ship, and you have like Ruthie just like looking through the window trying to track her as she's moving, and I'm like, that's what a superhero. Like, I don't think the movie. Again, I wish the movie would commit to it more. Yeah. But like, I did like that. And I mean, I want to shout out also use of. I love that we're talking so much about the act, which is horrendous.
It's very bad.
But like, I like up until that point how much of the movie uses prosthetics. Like, I love how much of the aliens are practical.
Yeah.
Like, there's a physical sets where like there is a big square on Bilky that where like a big action sequence takes place in the middle of the second act. That is like clearly a set that has been built with props, and there are physical that's the difference between it and the final sequence, is the tanks are actual physical props in that sequence. And I think I quite like that, where like characters are crashing into things and through things, and there's a sense of weight and mass that is entirely missing from the end battle.
Yeah.
It's funny that is Discord fine, Eric? Eric said the
We're swapping over. We changed places.
There we go.
Oh my God, we've changed places. Terrifying. If you would have given me a year and $1 million to guess what the name of that planet was that they were on, I would never have thought of, what'd you say, Bilky?
Bilky. But it's named for the artist Bilky Evely, which again is like a thing where you're like, do you really want to name the sex trafficking victim planet from? And it's like, well, we could name it. I thought it was named after the guy from Perfect Strangers.
Oh,
okay.
That was Balky. That was Balky.
Like, named after the experiment movie that James wrote. It's Balky.
The Balco experiment. Oh my God, I haven't thought about that movie forever. My last thing, we'll get to super chats because we've been talking about this for an hour, is as a big Jimmy Eat World fan, that was one of the worst needle drops I've heard in a very long time.
I didn't want to be petty, but thank you for saying that.
Nothing against the song. The song, whatever. I kind of don't need slow, sad covers of songs ever again. We've had enough of those.
Correct.
To play a slow, sad cover of Jimmy Eats World, The Middle, during your climactic action scene is just very silly. And if that was the thing they were waiting to hone in on until the last minute, I would love to know what their first choices were. Like, what got cut so that we could have this.
I am sure.
All-Star by Smash Mouth. Yeah.
By
the way, direct the fact that we're taking cues. We're taking cues.
Honestly, All-Star might have been better.
And by the way, not a slow sad version. The standard Smash Mouth version of All-Star would work significantly better than slow sad The Middle. I nearly rolled my damn eyes out of my skull.
You could probably time the beats of like All-Star to like particular things happening in that sequence.
It was it felt a little bit like sometimes an NBA player gets on a hot streak and they just start shooting crazy shots where I'm like, why are you shooting from 40 feet away? And it felt like James Gunn is like, I got that magic touch with, I know what song to play and people are going to go nuts. Because the Guardians movies fucking had that in spades. And this felt like maybe one of those choices. I don't know if it was Gunn's choice or if this was Craig Gillespie's choice.
It was allegedly Gunn's choice. So the idea is that they could not find, they apparently tried 45 songs, which I do want to see. Like one of the, we need to bring back Blu-ray extras, and one of the Blu-ray extras needs to be the 45 songs that they tried saying over.
This was the one you landed on?
Yeah, when they again landed on 3 days before the premiere, like it was down to the wire. Apparently, like Gillespie could not do it, and he went to Gunn, and Gunn did it. Is apparently.
And by the way, Gunn has had some amazing needle drops, amazing music pick throughout his career. How many of those music picks have been slowed down versions of other people's hit songs?
But also typically Gunn will start with the music and then build the scene around it, which I think is a key thing as well. So he's able to set the rhythms of the action and
but I'm just saying it doesn't make sense in either case.
Yeah, that is true. The Beastie Boys scene in Guardians 3, you have the one where Yondu's whistling to the with the little thing. Yeah, those scenes are cool.
Even the scene where
I like in other movies.
Yeah, where like Kurt, where it's like what's his face? Kurt Russell reveals that he's evil by the fact that he loves brandy.
Oh yeah,
one of the great moments in cinema.
A fine where it's like,
girl.
Yeah,
it's like I don't think this guy called Ego is particularly on the level. And it's like really is the name? No, it's the fact that he likes brandy.
Yeah. Also, he's a living planet, which should probably worry us. That's just worrisome from the get go. Cool. Let's jump to some. Did you guys have any final thoughts? I mean, I'm sure there'll be super chats about the movie that we can get our final thoughts out in before we move over to Widow's Bay. Quintuple, thank you so much for a $5 dono. Jack, have you ever seen the Gremlins 2 sketch of Key and Peele? That's how I imagine you as a DM.
Is the Gremlins 2 sketch where they just keep wanting the character from
and I love it.
Mannequin to be in everything. There he is.
It's cool with the sequel Doctor, where it's like everybody at the table has to have an idea. And it's like every idea is the best idea.
Love that.
Agreed. That is how I am as a DM. Perfect.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a very appealing idea. Yeah.
Very appealing. I tried to think of someone with key and I couldn't. I just fucked up.
Well, like it's Darren's wordplay that's really the key to his success.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I got
like Jordan there.
I know. I knew you wanted one last one. I fucking knew you wanted one last one. Quintuple again with a $5 dono. Thank you so much. Darren, what's up with the Agents of Atlas? I've lately been asking about the obscure characters, asking because of the obscure characters and Marvel's rivals who are beating my ass.
The Agents of Atlas are characters who were all, I believe, published in the 1950s, I want to say, by Atlas Comics. Don't worry, I'll make this very quick, I promise. But like, were published by Atlas Comics, which is a predecessor of Marvel. And therefore, in the 1970s, they came up with the idea of, like, what if retroactively all of these characters who were published by a publisher that predate us were part of a shared universe? What if we retroactively built a shared universe around these characters who were created by a predecessor? And that's where Agents of Atlas came from, but are most famous recently for a run by, I want to say, Jeff Parker, which was very good. I quite enjoyed that run. And I think it's around 2011, I want to say, is roughly when it was. It's very enjoyable, but it is basically a series of like pulp 1950s, not even C-list characters, but at the fringes of the Marvel universe. So well worth checking out. It's a short series. I think it got maybe 12 issues before it was cancelled because shockingly, like a bunch of 1950s superheroes that nobody has ever heard of from a publisher that no longer exists did not set the stands alight. But it's a very enjoyable comic.
Who's like the most famous agent of Atlas? Are there any that I would know? Have they appeared in anything else?
I can't remember. Like, there's a gorilla. Is the angel on there? Like, again, I read that comic.
I mean, if they're in Marvel Rivals,
like
they have to be big-ish, right?
It's Marvel Rivals.
Marvel Rivals has been around for, like, what, at this stage, a year? They keep adding characters.
There's a man named Gorilla Man. Oh, it might be Luna Snow. She's a character in Marvel Rivals who I don't know. Okay. I don't know what she's from, so it might be her. Luna Snow.
Luna Snow. There you go.
Okay. Luna Snow. The Toasty Tart. Thank you so much for a $2 dono. Bi-weekly reminder to watch In Fear. Please and thanks. We have accepted your bi-weekly reminder. I Googled it and it was purple, so I've already clicked that before. That is the quickest way, the best way to get us to watch something. But sometimes it doesn't work. Like Jonathan Griffin, thank you so much for the $5 dono. The only important question: which part of Ann Lee did Marty fall asleep to this week?
Marty,
I didn't watch it.
How's your Ann Lee?
Had a lot of stuff to watch. I watched about 45 episodes of One Piece since the last time we recorded. I just finished the Enies Lobby arc. We're at about episode 315.
Amazing.
Things are going well. As soon as I finish One Piece, I'm aiming for February. Then Ann Lee
just in time for the Oscars next year's Oscars. The Oscars after which the movie would have been eligible.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I assumed that they were going to give an Oscar to the 2000 cartoon One Piece. Like, you know what? We're going to retroactively go back in this anime from the Bush era. We're going to give an award to.
You know what? TV show isn't generally our thing. We've been catching up on it, but we feel like we need to make an exception.
If the bear could be a comedy, anything could happen.
And you, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Pure Pyro, thank you so much. What are your thoughts on the Kick-Ass movies?
Like one, really dislike two.
I really liked one at the time and have not seen it since.
Yes, I've never felt the urge to go back. It feels like a product of its time.
Yeah.
But I remember quite liking it. Like, that was a time, I want to say that was around the time that Sony were having a great deal of trouble with Spider-Man. And I remember having the gut reaction of Kick-Ass. Pretty decent Spider-Man movie. Very teenage, very edgy, very Mark Miller in its way. But like, having read the Kick-Ass comic, which I despise with every fiber of my being, I am not a huge fan of like what might be termed late Miller. Mark Miller, not Frank Miller. I've got other problems with late Frank Miller, but let's not get into that right now. But like, as somebody who like read the Kick-Ass comic, found it in like just juvenile and crass and vulgar, which is, to anybody who's watched the Kick-Ass movie, they're like, what is he talking about? I'm like, no, read the comic. The comic is like peak 18-year-old edgelord nonsense. And I think what I found the movie oddly charming because it manages to take that level of edgelord nonsense and fashion it back to, this is actually oddly charming teenage edgelord nonsense.
Nice.
So yeah, I have no urge to go back and rewatch them, to be honest, but I quite liked the first one.
Have either of you rewatched Sin City in the past 15, 20 years? I'm curious how that would hold up, because I, again, really liked it when it came out, but maybe that was because of where I was or where superhero or comic book movies in general were.
I mean, I do feel like it's a movie that has only like benefited from where superhero movies are now in comparison. It is like part of that wave of movies that comes out around is it 2006 where you have like it's like a history of violence, Ang Lee's Hulk, like Sin City,
Road to Perdition.
Even 3.
Where it's like where it's like comic book movies can be anything. And they can be like visually inventive and visually stylish, visually playful. Even something like Constantine, for example. Like the genre can encompass like a wide genre of like kinds of movies and kinds of filmmaking, crucially. And that just really doesn't exist anymore. So like I remember going back to Sin City a couple of years ago and just being impressed by how visually stunning it is and how committed it is to like trying to realize a comic book which is heavily influenced by film noir, like so much of Miller's work is, but trying to like retranslate that back to film in a way that is visually stunning. The sequel is horrendous. The sequel is really
Dave
bad.
the Kill For, was that what it was called?
Yes, yeah.
Or what? And what was the like the lookalike movie? Was that The Spirit?
Yes, The Spirit is the one that Frank Miller actually directed afterwards. He's like, Robert Rodriguez made it look easy. And I'm like, you took one of the most colorful and playful comic strips ever published. Will Eisner's The Spirit, horribly racist and very much a product of its time, but one of the most inventive pieces of comic art ever published. And you just turned it into bad fan fiction of your own Sin City. And then there's also like Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow is around the same time as well. And it has
got a lot of time for Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, even though I will never go back to that movie. Really.
The version that exists in my head. Yes.
It's a beauty. It's a masterpiece. Quintuple, thank you back with a $2 donut. Wait, is the live action Moana an SNL skit? Might as well be at this point. What are we doing? What are we doing? This movie just came out. Why are we doing this?
You've heard the rumors about the lead actor's hair, right? Where like the lead actor, her not the Rock.
Moana.
The actual Moana herself. Where the
I've never seen Moana. I don't know who the main character is.
The titular role. The titular role.
I thought The Rock might also be called Moana. I don't know.
He's Moana, but because there's more of him. But like the apparently the actor has like curly hair, and obviously you could see the cartoon character has curly hair as well. The rumor is, I don't know if this has been confirmed, that they straightened it because it makes it easier for green screen compositing.
Great, beautiful.
Great.
I'm sure this movie will be gorgeous.
I'm sure.
Does that come out this summer? Does that come out soon? Is that like a few weeks?
That's out the week before the Odyssey. So like that is yes, it's screening in a week from tomorrow for critics and releasing
I'm
Friday.
sick that week. I can't see it.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we switched, you know?
We could do a Moana episode, or we could wait a week and do an Odyssey episode. Who knows? Who knows which one we want to talk about more?
Either way.
What if we get to that episode and we're like, we actually have more to say on Moana? Like the Odyssey was whatever, but man, Moana blew our socks off.
We would.
You know, if Nolan had just like taken a little time, asked The Rock if he could like sit at his feet and learn how to make a movie, maybe the Odyssey would be worth talking about.
Yeah. Lazy Nolan. You know what? I bet Moana's going to screen for influencers. Just saying.
I am Garrett. Anyway, I'm going to bite my lip on that. I can't.
I want to make sure you get into all the screenings you need. Joffrey of Monmouth, thank you so much for the $20 dono. What frustrated me about these grapple with American decline movies that they're only ever diagnostic, raging against the machine, but with no new ideas. The same thing that goddamn American Idiot, criticized its protag for in 2004. So saying that there's a lot of movies that are just like, raging against the machine without providing any, well, how do we fix things? What is a road to something better?
Yeah, but that's, I guess I want to just say, I think that's all art in general. Art's job is not necessarily to legislate. Art can inspire, of course, but I think a lot of art is just kind of like, I'm reflecting the things that I'm feeling now, which is like, oh, this is what I'm feeling about the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a manifesto, and this is the thing where like a lot of people get very defensive about like stuff like politics and art. And it's like it is, to your point, often a reflection of this is what I feel. This is the emotional reaction that I have to the world in which I live, and it's like the stuff that is actually prescriptive tends to be stuff like Atlas Shrugged, and I'm not a huge fan of Atlas. Like this is how things should be. Yeah. And like I do feel like that's a lot of onus to put on a,
Yeah.
like to put on a creator to be like, well, if you haven't got a solution, you ain't got a problem. It's like,
Right. I to just rage and not provide answers or thinking. Right, but like that's again, I think that might be all art, or 99% of art is I am expressing my thoughts and ideas through a given medium about my state, about the state of the world, about a thing that I'm frustrated on, about a thing that I love, right? Like, I think it's incredibly rare to have a piece of art give those kinds of ideas, unless they are bonkers. Atlas shrugged.
yeah. Like, I mean, again, I'm thinking like this is something I think about a lot with regards to like quote unquote conservative art, because it's a big thing. A big debate is this idea of like, can conservatives make great art? And they absolutely can. Clint Eastwood makes great conservative art.
Uwe Boll and Armie Hammer make great art.
Do they, Marty? I would like to distance myself from that statement. But like, to my mind, what makes, say, like Clint Eastwood like a great artist as opposed to, say, Uwe Boll and Armie Hammer, to pick a counter example, is that like Eastwood asks questions. Like Eastwood's movies like interrogate and explore, and like they're uncertain about the things that he is exploring and debating and discussing and visualizing in his films. And I think that like, if you're looking at like more prescriptive cinema, like the examples I think of are things like right-wing conservative movies, are things like Citizen Vigilante, are things like Death Wish, but are things like even like we talk about religious movies, right? And there's this whole big thing about like faith-based movies. And it's like, for me, like the bad faith-based movies are the ones that are like, God definitely exists and you're wrong, and this is what we need to do to fix it, and you need to learn your lesson in this way. Whereas like the faith-based movies that work for me are like the Scorsese ones, which are like, God exists, right? It's not just a big empty void that I'm howling into. I don't know that God exists, and I'm actually having some doubts about it. And how would you like to sit down with me for 2.5 hours and like wallow in that uncertainty and unknowability? I'm like, those are the movies that I find interesting, to Jack's point, are the ones that are like engaging with questions and aren't presenting themselves as solutions. Like, I'm rewatching the Andrew Stanton movies for, obviously like the Blank Check podcast, which I listened to, is covering a season of him. Obviously Toy Story 5 came out, and it's like, it is so fascinating that like he will talk about WALL-E, which is obviously to me an intensely political movie about intensely political things around consumerism, around environmentalism, around late capitalism, around American identity. And he will talk about it and he'll just be like, yeah, this is just stuff that was in my mind. I don't know that I have a clear perspective. I don't know that I have a point. Like, I don't know that I was sitting down going, screw Amazon. I was more like, I'm sitting in my house surrounded by Amazon boxes, and I'm like thinking through what that is. And when he does try to make a movie that, to my mind, has like a clear directive, this is how we actually fix the problems that are facing us as a society, he makes In the Blink of an Eye, which is like, what if Cloud Atlas on Xanax, which is like the longest 94-minute movie I have ever seen, and is just unbearable because it's like, what's great about kids is sometimes they grow up to be tech CEOs, and I'm like, you know what?
What is In the Blink of an Eye? I don't even know what this is.
This is so the guy who directed Toy Story 5, which
I know what I understand is. I don't know what this is.
I know, but just for context, I feel before I say the next couple of words out of my mouth, I think I want you to be thinking about the biggest movie of the year. Blink of an Eye is a movie that went straight to Hulu, last 94 minutes, and may as well not exist, starring Kate McKinnon, Rashida Jones, and Davy Diggs. It takes place across 3 periods of human history. That's, prehistoric Neanderthals, modern day, and the distant future, where Kate McKinnon is ferrying mankind to a distant world where we may learn to live again. It is. And if you're hearing that premise and thinking, that sounds incredible, sign me up for it, there's a reason why, despite directing possibly the highest grossing movie of the year, Andrew Stanton still did not have enough juice to get Disney to do anything but quietly release it on streaming and hope nobody notices.
It released on Hulu at the end of February. I open Hulu often, and it has never been like, hey, do you want to see this? Like, it is burying it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Prime Paradiso. Thank you so much for the dono. At least we have our new Barbenheimer back session. I feel like back session can very easily be taken to somewhere slightly above PG-13. So maybe a different name than back sessions. Although back sessions are fun. Maybe that's like getting like a back rub. Nothing weird about that.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah,
that?
I mean,
Back-
that
Get
poster isn't
poster out of
helping
here.
either, to be fair.
Poster's not helping. Poster's not helping whatsoever.
But I mean,
And then Frog Parts, thank you so much for the dono. Punk rock, more like puke rock, am I right?
so
kinda
much
puke rock.
puking. Just so much puking in the movie.
Let's jump over to before we jump over to Widow's Bay, I'm going to jump down to Joffrey, just clarifying on the previous super chat of about movies that are raging against the machine but not saying anything of how to fix things. Says to clarify, I mean art that does nothing more than point and say thing bad, not necessarily a clear path. I get what you mean.
Yeah. I understand what you mean. I still think that is valid because that is still expressing an idea.
Especially when some of these ideas, which a lot of us on this panel listening might assume something, but there's a lot of things that we assume to be true that 50% of the people disagree with, even though it appears blatantly true to your eyes, but who needs to believe your eyes?
Right.
Cool. Let's we'll save the rest of the super chats for a little bit later. Let's jump over
joyous note.
on that joyous note. Let's jump over to Widow's Bay, which Darren and I have been banging the drum on pretty much its entire season. Probably our best, my favorite new show of 2026. This is a 10 episode Apple TV. It's a series. It's got renewed for a season 2. I think we're going to do a spoiler deep dive. We've been just giving our thumbs up to this. Jack, did you feel as warmly about the show? Like, would you recommend this to people?
In general,
who haven't seen it?
With the caveat of like, if you like horror, this is 100% gonna be your thing. If you're okay with horror, you might be a little wibbly wobbly on it. And if you just like, oh, I just generally like a lot of stuff, you might be a little wibbly wobbly on it. As I'm just going to get into it right away, which is that the first 2 episodes, I was ready to back off. After episode 2, I was like, Marty and Darren are idiot sons of bitches.
Once again, we got it wrong.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm going to have to be the dumb on the podcast to say the thing you like is bad. Actually,
Pluribus all over again.
Yeah. Don't forget Masters of the Universe. It's like
Masters of the Universe.
That's why I don't feel bad about Superman being mine. But yeah, it's like
you guys went to bat for Masters of the goddamn Universe. No, but like to me, the biggest problem with the first 2 episodes of Widow's Bay, and so very briefly for everyone, this has been described to me as The Office, but set in Stephen King's universe, which I think is really appropriate. It's not.
Parks and Rec
not
in particular as well. Yeah,
Parks and Rec. Yeah, it is not shot mockumentary style, but it is a horror comedy that kind of goes through swaths of horror tropes, but with comedic overtones. And to me, those first 2 episodes were wavering that line a little. We're wavering a little too close to that line.
Mm-hmm.
Now, keep in mind, it's been several months since I saw this, since it screened for me. Was episode 3 the party episode?
No, episode 3, the party episode might be one of the greatest episodes of television.
Yeah, that's what turned it around.
I think that's actually
was episode 3 the bed and breakfast?
7.
No,
that
party's
late.
way earlier.
Party's way earlier, because the party was the moment where like I liked the Sea Hag. I thought the Sea Hag episode was very good, and then
I think
the
that's
party
episode 3.
happens. Okay, because then the party episode happens, and my mind is just blown.
Yeah, episode 2 is the bed and breakfast episode. Episode 3 is the inaugural swim. So that is the Sea Hag.
That's the Sea Hag. Yes, and so. Okay, so by the way, this will be spoiler filled because one of my biggest issues, I'm going to talk about spoilers coming up right now. My biggest issue with the first 2 episodes was they were playing the game of, is it real or not? Is the supernatural thing real or not? Or is it just town delusion? And I think that works for 1 episode. I think that works great for 1 episode as the viewer gets comfortable in here. Is it real or is it not? That is standard first act horror trope. And then we get into episode 2 and they are still riding that line on whether or not it's real. And my only thought was, God damn, this is going to be an entire series of is this real or not? And it's going to be bullshit. And I'm done with it already. But then episode 3 comes out and it is firmly planted that, yes, the supernatural stuff is really happening. And it becomes a wonderful ride after that.
I was worried that the Matthew Rhys, the main character, was going to be because he kind of starts off, he's the mayor from Jaws. He's a nicer version of him because he's our protagonist, but he has the same mindset of the mayor from Jaws, and I was worried that was going to be the whole season. And while that is part of the problem of that, like, he's so desperate to kind of create a nice place for his son that he's willing to put these people in danger for tourism season. I completely agree, Jack. I am so happy that very quickly he's like, oh, this shit is real. Like, and especially when, you know, he like when what's his name? Stephen Root shoots the sea hag in the bathtub. I'm like, oh, this is great. Okay, perfect. We're all on board with this.
Yes.
Darren, what are some of your highlights of the season?
No, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was just a delight from beginning. And it is an interesting piece of television to me because, like, to me, we talk about a culture of nostalgia, and I can be very critical of nostalgia in pop culture. Anybody who's listened to the show, anybody who watches The Backdrop knows that, like, nostalgia is something that Darren will just, like, raise his fist in the air and shake angrily at. But for me, this is perfectly done nostalgia, where this is a love letter to so much of, like, what I love about, Jack mentioned horror, but, like, so much of what I love about horror, but particularly, like, you know, kind of like Northeast American culture, like along like the New England kind of culture, the Lovecraft, the Poe. King is a massive influence on this, to the point where, like, there are moments in this where I cannot believe that this is not a Mike Flanagan joint. When we talked about this season, and I had seen the first season and you had not yet seen it, Marty, I was like, halfway through this season, there is going to be an episode that is, like, grown in a tank specifically for Marty, like, right down to, like, who it brings the island, the storytelling device it uses, and kind of, like, how much it celebrates, like, that tradition in horror of the rural New England community. And it is just, like, so literate, so smart, so fun, without ever wallowing in it, where I'm watching it and I'm going, oh yeah, they're doing The Fog, they're doing Jaws, they're doing, you know, Halloween at one point, they're doing, like, Blair Witch, they're doing, like, The Wicker Man, they're doing all this kind of, like, rich tradition of horror. And it's like, all that stuff is great and clever and fun, but even if I didn't know those references, even if I didn't know what they were riffing on, this would still be a hugely enjoyable show on its own terms, because it has this absolutely incredible cast where, like, Matthew Rhys is, you know, I have not seen The Americans yet. I'm going to put my hands up and say that I'm ashamed of that. But Rhys is, like, rightly regarded as one of the great dramatic actors of his generation. And it feels almost like cheating how good he is at comedy. Like, it feels almost like that, like a reverse Bryan Cranston, where it's like Cranston, like, just kills on Malcolm in the Middle, and you're like, okay, you've got a lane, buddy, and you've cornered the market. And he's like, also, I'm going to be the head of a prestige drama that's going to define the medium for the next 10 years. Like, don't get greedy. And, like, Rhys is incredible at the dramatic stuff here, where, like Marty referenced, there's a strong dramatic core of this as a father and a relationship to his son, and the idea of somebody navigating something that they desperately need to believe isn't true in order to, like, have the rest of their life continue the way that they want it to, which is a good dramatic arc. But also, Rhys is very, very funny, and he lands so many of, like, his deadpan reactions, his comedic timing, and the show, like, just does not work without him. And then obviously, like, there's Stephen Root, who is, like, always, like, Root is one of those guys where it's like, is Root ever actually bad? And again, he's one of those guys where he will pop up in something where, like, earlier this year he was in the 3rd season of The Terror, and I'm like, how does that man find the time to do what he does, but also to do what he does and, like, be consistently good? Because like, I have seen Stephen Root like 5 or 10 times we're now halfway through 2026. And it's like, there should be a point where, like, I don't know, Ryan Reynolds or whatever, I am just tired of the Stephen Root bit, but never. He shows up in, like, was it like Mike and Nick and Alice for a scene, and I'm like, I am all in on that. He shows up in the 3rd season of The Terror. I am all in on that. And he's in Widow's Bay, and I'm like, somehow
Yeah.
He's playing Quint from Jaws.
Yeah.
And I thought I was all in on Stephen Root, but somehow it turns out I have more capacity to be all in on. And then there's the third lead, and I forget her name. I feel really bad.
Cato Flynn.
Cato Flynn, who plays
Cato
Patricia.
Flynn, who is just stunning. Like, because this is
revelatory.
It's an incredible performance because it is that performance where it's the most overtly comic of the leading trio, where she is the character who is like the awkward co-worker, where like she doesn't have a correlating character in Jaws that you can point to and go, oh, I understand what the dramatic game of this character is. Where like Quint is insane, therefore I get what Stephen Root is doing. The mayor is interested in commerce, therefore I understand what Matthew Rhys is doing. She's just the annoying person in the office.
Well, what she is in the show is like, what I assumed she would be is, oh, she is just cast because she looks like Shelley Duvall from The Shining. Great.
And then episode 4 happens. And again, like, I know we keep singling out episode 4 as like one of the masterpieces of the season and the point where everything just really clicks into place perfectly. But part of the reason that it clicks into place perfectly is because the first 3 episodes are very heavy on Matthew Rhys. And you're like Matthew Rhys, he's a great dramatic actor and he's killing it at comedy, but you're like, you know, it's Matthew Rhys. He's doing Matthew Rhys stuff. He's very good, but I expect that from him. And then episode 4 happens. You're like, oh, we're scaling back on the Stephen Root and the kind of the Matthew Rhys in a 10-episode season. This is a bold move. You're taking your 2 greatest players off the pitch, the 2 guys who I know can deliver anything you want them to do, and you're putting Kate Flynn center, this actor who I have no real familiarity with. And somehow, she managed to give like a performance that perhaps even surpasses the work that the 2 other actors had been doing in the 3 previous episodes. And you're like, there is no cylinder that this show is not firing, which is kind of stunning. Yeah.
She shows that in episode 4 and then does it again in the Halloween episode with the boogeyman. And it's like so fucking impressive that she does it twice. And that the 4th episode is about like her going to like a library bookmobile, finding a cheesy self-help book, but it turns out to be like a dark grimoire. Like, it is so funny. And the twist with, and I'm like, God damn it.
Episode 4 with the party is like the rare episode of television that I rewatched, and it is, you know, much like the greats, like The Sixth Sense. When you rewatch it and know the twist, it makes it even better. All of the little references throughout. It is the best piece of television I have watched this year, bar none.
When it's there's like moments in shows where you a single moment you could be like, okay, I know I'm in good hands with this. And granted, I loved the right from the get-go, I really liked it, but there's the scene where it's still, Tom is still on the fence about whether he believes in this stuff, and he's like, okay, with Stephen Root, he's like, I'll give you 5 minutes, and they go to a bar. Him and Patricia meet him at a bar, and Stephen Root's telling about like the scary history of the island and stuff, and this haunting that's happening, and then they go off on a tangent about some guy who married a woman who is like half his age, this like May December romance. And Patricia starts talking about, you know, sometimes that happens with girls, and like sometimes they need that May December romance. And Tom's just looking at him and he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like it is that moment where I'm like, oh, we are in such incredibly good hands in this show.
Like a moment for me was the Sea Hag episode where like she's crawling over the lazy boy, and he just reaches for the lever to spring the legs up and throws the monster over him like she's in a Looney Tunes. And it's like, that is like perfect. This is the pitch of the show. This is the pitch of it is like Sam Raimi Army of Darkness level of stuff where it's like, we are familiar with horror movies, we know how they work, but also Looney Tunes are funny, and we love that too.
And to me, that's the craziest part of the show is once it picks that lane of like, oh, yep, all the monsters are real, then it can bounce back and forth between horror and comedy perfectly. So like the Sea Hag episode, you know, the big joke of the Sea Hag is she sits on your face, which, you know, is a well-known, very funny sex thing. And they all have so awkward moments. And then, of course, the Sea Hag is there and the horror kicks in, but then she crawls up to actually sit on his face, and it
Yeah.
is funny and scary
Yeah.
at the same time.
It is insane they make those two flavors work so well in the Halloween episode. How it's like legitimately a great slasher movie. It is a great hour-long slasher movie with some of the funniest beats. Like when she gets to the house of all the mean girls and everything, and eventually just tases the main one, and she looks at the other one's like, "Oh, she's the fucking worst. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, you know she's the worst." Yeah.
Oh no, and then like the entire sequence afterwards, after like the killer is down, but she will not remove the shotgun from his head.
All the way to the crematorium?
All the way to the crematorium. Which is just like, it's that old joke of let's apply real human logic to a horror scenario. But and beyond that, the way that they are able to switch between the sub-genres of horror. So we get a slasher episode, we get a Wicker Man-esque cult episode, we get, like old New England
Robert Eggers. We get like Robert Eggers episodes.
Yeah.
But we get historical Eggers horror. We get what do you call it? Natural disaster horror.
Yeah, we get bunker paranoia. Yeah.
And it is an absolute delight all the way through. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it also walks a really fine line of, we talk about the X-Files a lot, of Monster of the Week and lore / mythology. And I think it walks a really great line of, a lot of the episodes are kind of Monster of the Week, but it deepens our relationship with the characters. It does move this overarching, it opens up so that anything can happen on this show, while everything still feels like, oh, of course, this is the kind of thing that would happen in this world. How do you guys feel about the fact that this is going to be an ongoing series? Like, do you feel like it should have been? I know it's dumb to be like, talk about how much we love this and then complain about, oh no, there's too much ice cream for us. But like, would you have rather had this be a single, a single one season thing, or is the fact that it's going on, exciting to you?
It's to me now begins the Stranger Things of it all, which is Stranger Things season 1. By the way, along similar lines, using nostalgia not for specific references, but just for a nostalgic vibe.
Like a vibe.
Yeah.
Stranger Things season 1 does that, and every season subsequent is just a little step down. And it's fun, we got our ups and downs within there. It's still good, but nothing will quite hit as hard as that season 1. And I do fear the Stranger Things-ness of this, where this hit very hard, but now we have some like practical problems and solutions that are, that we can math around, and that might get in the way of the fun.
I tend to trust the team, though, to be honest. Like my counterpoint is that like I really like this, and I trust that like horror is a big enough genre that they will keep finding things to do. And like I'm not concerned past the second season. Although who knows? If it is bad, we at least have this perfect season. It's not something like Wonder Man, where like Wonder Man ends and I'm like, that is the perfect place to leave those two characters. I never want to see them again. Not because I hate them, but because I love them so much. And then they announced like the second season of Wonder Man, and I'm like, I am actually conflicted about this, because I really liked Wonder Man. More Wonder Man is in theory good, but also that ending was perfect, and I just want to imagine them riding off into the sunset together. With this, I can at least see, because Marty mentioned, because it feels like television, which is great. Like we need to sell that more. It feels like television. Every episode is not just an arbitrary chunk of a 7-hour movie cut into a block and released a week. Every episode is, there is an arc.
The blank episode.
And I feel like that is a format where you could conceivably get another 10. I don't know how easy it would be to keep naming horror tropes, but this team can name 10 more horror tropes that they would 100%. Love to play with. And I do kind of, that I trust. And you're right, maybe like some of the myth stuff towards the end of the season is a lot. I did feel like the show was kind of making fun of that. Like the Dale Dickey sequence is incredible. Like the actual lore dump that the show does at the end is incredible. Like it is an incredible, as somebody who watches so much media where I have to consume lore dumps, I was like, you guys know exactly what you're doing. This is a delight. Yes. I feel like they're not taking it too seriously. So I think
I'm very excited about those 8 bells. That's the most excited I've ever been about 8 bells ringing. I'm like, oh, that's so many bells. This place
so
will be
many
fucked
bells.
next season.
Speaking of Dale Dickey, shout out to the phenomenal That Guy casting of almost every single person. I have to have the cast up here because they are That Guy actors.
Yes.
For someone who doesn't know, a That Guy actor, a character actor, is someone you see in a lot of movies, TV shows, but you don't necessarily know their name. Dale Dickey, who I knew from Palm Springs as like the random bar patron from Palm Springs. Jeff Hiller, speaking of Pluribus, Jeff Hiller, just random awkward white man comedian. Toby Huss. I feel like I haven't seen a Toby Huss in a while, and him as the priest felt perfect. And Neil Casey, again, just kind of awkward dude actor. Amazing cast.
Connor Ratliff is in there as a deputy, isn't he?
Yeah. Is Dale Dickey breaking down the family tree on the old the old school elementary school what were those things called? The projectors or whatever.
Projectors,
yeah. But the shit she starts saying, and then they're like, you can't say that. And she's like, oh, whatever, and rolls on to the next thing, and they're just like, Jesus.
The fact that the lore
and
dump
the speed that she goes XXX.
But like Darren said, the fact that the lore dump in the episode was an actual slideshow that characters didn't want to watch was perfect.
And was played, was drawn out to a point where I was like, this is going on too long. I'm like, nope, it's circled back around. It's funny. It's funny again.
No, it's perfect.
Can I just ask, Marty, as a big fan of Midnight Mass, how did you feel about having Hamish Linklater on a rural New England island horror again? And what was that like for you?
Perfect. I was so excited in the flashback. I'm like, we're doing this. We're having an entire flashback episode, hundreds of years in the past, but directed by Ty West, I think, of the trip of the Maxine and trilogy. Absolutely incredible, and the slow reveal of what was going on there, the fact that he was still alive, I think, and then bringing him back as the 400-year-old man who just wants to die on the boat, and so good.
Perfect.
Some things will never not be funny, like Matthew Reese holding a coffin closed as Hamish Linklater tries to talk to him from inside it. I do love, by the way, that Hamish Linklater was like, when I got offered the role, my agent was like, do you really want to be pigeonholed? And he's like, I don't want anybody to make a movie set on an island in New England without me in it.
I'm the only one. Just really good stuff. One of those things that is a high recommendation. Even if you feel like you have a relatively low tolerance for horror, I think the horror is punctuated by enough levity to where I think it's palatable for anyone who has even a slight interest.
None of the horror is necessarily goopy. We're not seeing intestines at any point. So nothing's terribly. It is just one of those things where if you are a fan of the genre, you'll just kind of get a little bit more out of the references. But like Marty said earlier, even if you've never seen The Wicker Man, even if you've never seen a Friday the 13th movie, you will know these beats just via the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Amazing. Recommend. Once again, Apple TV making phenomenal shows that no one will watch.
Sugar season 2.
Sugar season. You're right. I'm gonna be so excited. I'm ready to go back in.
You ready for a little taste, Marty? Ready?
Ready for just a little taste.
Yeah.
I recommend this to anyone who has Apple, or if you could just get yourself one of those little, again, Apple is so worth it to just sign up for a month even and try to binge a couple of these shows.
Take a week off of work and binge everything Apple TV has. Absolutely.
Yeah, Beatmaster, we were talking about Star City earlier. I need to jump into that because a TV podcast I listen to is raving about Star City. So yeah,
I need to watch For All Mankind as well. My dad
likes
it, which is always a good sign. When they've got
dads
my dad.
love alternate history. Oh my God, dads love it when it's history but different.
History, but they don't know it. It's this isn't what Tom Hanks told me, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah. This isn't what Tom Hanks told me. Let's go over some more super chats. The Hawk, thank you so much with a $5 dono. The last 5 movies I've seen: Caroline, Over Your Dead Body, Supergirl, Young Washington, and 2007's Hitcher, all had puking scenes. What the fuck? How?
It's a pretty sick lineup of movies, if you ask me. Eh?
I don't think I don't know any of these movies aside from Supergirl.
I hate it when they regurgitate ideas. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my god, that was good.
Yeah,
That was good.
Just
Do you know these
throwing
movies?
up against the wall and just seeing what's happening? I mean, Over Your Dead Body's the recent one with Jason Segel. Yeah, there we go. Jason Segel and Samara Weaving, which is fine. Is it Jorma Taccone or is it Akiva Shaw? It's one of the two.
Oh, one of the Lonely Island
Yeah,
guys?
yeah.
Yeah, directs it. It is fine, is the thing. It is basically a movie where the gimmick is that like a couple go on like a holiday together to their cabin, and they both plan to murder each other on that trip. They are each like so tired of each other in the marriage that they have each concocted a plan to murder the other. Obviously, they're unaware of it, and the two plans end up crisscrossing, and you end up with like Timothy Olyphant's in there, Juliette Lewis is in there. Who plays the father? There's a really good performance from Jason Segel's father. But yeah, it's fine, is the thing. Like, I was a little underwhelmed because I'm a big fan of the Lonely Island guys, and I've generally been a big fan of the movies that they made. Also, I am very fond of like Samara Weaving and Jason Segel. I find them to be very charismatic performers. Like Forgetting Sarah Marshall is like a classic to me. Samara Weaving is like a modern generation scream queen who does not get enough credit for the work that she does. But I was whelmed by it, is how I would describe Over Your Dead Body.
She's one of the
That's
good
exactly
Nepo
what
babies.
it looked like.
One of the good ones.
One of the good
I
Nepo
mean,
babies.
she's one of the is it? She's like a Nepo niece, but it's like one of those things where it's like they
She
just
was a baby
cloned
at some
Margot
point.
Robbie. That's fair. It's like they just
the
cloned
Margot Robbie like clones. Yeah.
the
Yes.
Australia like assembly line where it's just like we gotta like. Which, to be honest, if you're doing that, it's better that than Sam Worthington's. Remember when they were like producing Sam Worthington's like once every 2 years?
We don't talk about that time. We don't talk about the Clash of the Titans era.
Oh, and Eric,
what,
you can
what if we? Sorry.
Eric, you can get rid of the spoiler warning now.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's true.
What
But
if Sam
also
Worthington had less
Samara
charisma?
Weaving, the one of the big issues is like had a couple really phenomenal movies out the gate, and now like needs to fire her agent. Because
I mean, part of me is also like market correction. There is only so much space for a Margot Robbie type, and it does feel like Margot Robbie has kind of cornered that. Like, I know that they are apparently like best friends in real life, but it does feel like Samara Weaving kind of shot herself in the foot by taking the role in Babylon of being the woman who is replaced by Margot Robbie.
Sure. Sure.
Like, if your best friend is like, I got a plum role in my new movie for you, like, oh, what do you do? It's like, oh yeah, you get fired and I take your career. I'm like, is there some subtext here?
What's going on here? To be fair, there's room for two of a thing. I feel like Seth Rogen and Jason Segel are kind of two of a thing. I literally thought this movie was The Invite for a while until you started talking about its ins and outs. I was like, okay, this is a different movie than The Invite.
But also, like, you say there's room for two of a thing. You ask 5 people on the street, like, who Seth Rogen is and who Jason Segel is. You're going to, like, I think there's a different level of fame. And even given that, like, Segel was on, like, a beloved TV show, at least until its final season, for however long that show ran. Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Shrinking. He's on Shrinking. Harrison Ford. He gets to hang out with Harrison Ford.
On Apple TV Plus, which is a show
Does that mean,
like,
is it a real show?
that about to say, that is the thing where it's like, it is Harrison Ford, who apparently loves being on 3 seasons. Actually, like, the grumpiest man in Hollywood having the best time of his life on a streaming TV show. And that show may as well not exist. Everybody who has seen it thinks it's great. Everybody who works on it thinks it's great.
Oh, yeah.
But I have not met one single person in real life who has been like the Harrison Ford streaming show, which is insane to me.
Yeah,
like, one of the biggest stars in the world is on a show, and half of my relatives don't know it exists, and the other half only know because I've been asking them, do they know it exists?
right.
Yeah. And the Hawk follows it up with another $5 dono. Thanks, Hawk. Kara has self-worth issues she believes R is too good to kill, yet kills K herself, suggesting that she doesn't see her own self as equally good or worthy. I don't think that's not quite how I took it. I think it is kind of a sin eater thing of like, this is for me to be a protector. This is a thing I need to do to protect.
but also like the idea that like I don't even think that it's like I am soiled and I am ruined and I'm unworthy, but it's like I have already lost so much. Like Ruthie has lost her family, which is a lot for somebody to lose. Like I'm not want to minimize what Ruthie has lost, and Ruthie has the whole conversation with it, I'm already ruined, which I actually found strangely moving. That like I'm already ruined,
for a kid
and
to
it's like
say,
yeah, it's like heartbreaking. Whereas Kara is like an actual adult. And Kara has not just lost her family, but has lost her entire people. Like, and she lost her entire people twice. And she lost her entire people poisoned by the land on which they were living. I kind of see, I see Kara, to your point, like taking it on herself and being like, I am an adult and I can be responsible. And I can be responsible for being the person who stops Krem from doing, and I like a lot of discourse around the movie being like Krem is a generic like one note antagonist, which he absolutely is. He's not a complex, multifaceted character. I am not begging for a Krem spin-off.
How do you get all those beads on his face? That's what I want to know. What was going on
TV?
with that?
There's going to be a TV show like where it's one episode per beat, which is exactly what we need in this streaming moment. But the thing about Krem, which I did actually really like, is that the movie and Matthias Schoenaerts just decide that he is the most boring, banal, evil dude who ever existed, which I find is like a commendable choice in the current moment culturally, but also in like a genre where the tendency is to go large and to go camp and to go scenery chewing. I quite liked how boringly evil Krem was. It was refreshing that the movie was never like, and just so we're clear, this guy who abducts and sexually abuses children is actually really cool and fun to hang around with. I quite like the movie being like, no, he's sad and pathetic and kind of boring and mundane. We hired a guy who plays Nazis. He knows his lane.
I mean, it's similar to you mentioned the Hawk Girl and the Despot from Superman. It's kind of similar to where it's like, if the bad guy is being like, well, I'm going to keep doing bad stuff and you can't stop me, killing him seems like the only thing he can do. Like, I don't know. If you're not showing a shred of maybe I should change, then I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, again, in the comic, she sends him to the Phantom Zone, which is like Superman's Guantanamo Bay. But that has not been established yet. And it would be a bit of a contrivance for her to whip out the gate and be like, into the Phantom Zone you go.
So was the Phantom Zone not the pocket reality from Superman? 2?
It is.
No, from Superman, the one from last year, like where Lex Luthor has all of his.
No,
that is.
I'm sorry. It felt like a Phantom Zone to me.
Hi-oh.
There was literally a scary guy who was like the boatman.
But it's Hades. Yes, it was Hades.
Yeah, it was scary. He was.
By the way, more religious imagery in case we need more argument for the gun heavily influenced by his time in Jesuit school. The 3 days in which like Kara has to go on her journey, and the fact that Kara's body is laid to rest in a cave before she is risen at the climax. But anyway, sorry. That's enough James Gunn Jesuit stuff.
You know what? How about another shout out? Something that I liked about Supergirl. I liked that the bad guys look like dirty bikers from Mad Max.
I think that's fun. I think dirty bikers are fun. Yeah, I like Lobo's chomping on a cigar.
I thought that was very early 90s comic book, and I dug it.
And like, it's a small detail, and like it is a detail that is nice amid all the CGI carnage, but like Krem losing half of his beads in the final battle is like just a really good makeup choice. Where like at the end of the movie when he's lying on the ground, half of his beads have been torn out.
I'm no longer bedazzled.
I can probably go through airport security.
And then the Hawk wrapping it up with, was thinking of all this due to the survivor's guilt in the movie. Yep. Nick Knoll, thank you so much for $2 dono. I want a slow, sad cover of Chumbawamba's Thub Thumping. Has anyone ever slow covered Thub Thumping?
I get knocked down.
That had to have happened.
Then I get up again.
I drink a whiskey drink. I drink a vodka drink. That's the album cover? I hate it.
Yes.
Who's that
guy? You guys
guy?
got around during the 90s. Who's that guy?
Is that Thanos? Is that Baby Thanos?
This was peak Nirvana, Baby on an album cover. It's like very 90s. Yeah.
Loved Baby on an album cover. And now they're like, look at the baby now. And I'm like, I don't want to see the adult. I don't care what they grew up to be.
Get massive facial reconstructive surgery.
Sussy Guru, thank you so much. How excited are y'all? Is that how you Americans say it? We do say y'all. We say y'all quite a bit. For Cyberpunk Edge Runners 2, whose trailer was just released. Did either of you guys watch the Netflix anime Cyberpunk Edge Runners a few years ago?
I did not.
fucking rules. Fucking rips. You don't need to know anything about Cyberpunk. You don't need to play the game. I was actively disinterested in Cyberpunk, and the first season of the anime is legitimately great, and I'm very excited for the second season. So, yeah, I give that a high reco. Even for people who don't have like a huge stomach for anime, just really, really great depressing stuff. And I'm excited for season 2.
Really great depressing stuff. 2 thumbs up.
It's very extremely depressing, just deeply depressing. It is not a feel-good anime for anyone who wants to watch it. Nice. But yeah, it's coming in season 2. I think they announced for this fall, and it's like an entirely new set of characters. So it seems like season 1 very much wrapped a bow on its story. King and Commoner, thank you so much for the $5 donor. Remember when Supergirl was a shapeshifter from another universe and was dating Lex Luthor? Pepperidge Farm remembers. I don't know anything about Supergirl. This is the most I've ever seen of Supergirl.
Well, this is the 1990s, right? So, okay. Pocket history of Supergirl. Let's start the 2-minute timer on this, Eric.
Is this
Supergirl
a Phantom Zone history of Supergirl?
Of Supergirl. But like Supergirl is created in the late 1950s, early 1960s as like a spin-off of Superman, basically. And she is like Superman in a cape. And the big thing is she's older than Well, she remembers Krypton. She came to like Earth when she was older. She didn't come as a baby, etc., etc. She has a memory. She is kind of a character that they struggle to really figure out what to do with. She has backup strips, and I believe it's Action Comics for a great deal of time. But basically what happens is, in 1984, in the midst of the Superman movie franchise starring Christopher Reeve, the Salkins, who are producers who have a great deal of creative integrity and always make the best decision artistically for the movie that they're working on, decide that they want to not just be in the Superman game, because Superman movies are expensive. They star Christopher Reeve, and you got to pay him money, and Gene Hackman wants money, and Margaret Kidder wants money. So what if, and hear us out here, we could have a Superman movie that didn't have Superman in it. So let's make a movie, Supergirl movie, in 1984. It is not a good movie. If you have ever...
Shut your damn mouth.
Okay. All right. But what is interesting about Supergirl from 1984, a movie that arguably sets in motion not only the decline of Supergirl as a franchise, but Superman as a franchise cinematically. It is the movie that like sets in the arc that goes through Superman 3 and Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. But Supergirl is like so poorly received in 1984 that DC make the decision in 1986 when they're rebooting their shared universe to just erase Supergirl from continuity. They're like, you know what? That entire character was a misfire, a rapper calling a mulligan. So Supergirl is sacrificed during the big crossover event Crisis on Infinite Earth that reboots the DC Universe. And when the DC Universe relaunches, there's a big deal of Superman being the last son of Krypton. Superman being the only survivor of Krypton's destruction. And that is a big thing in John Byrne's version of Superman, which is obviously, like, when we talk about this, a huge influence on Gunn's, because Gunn is a guy who came of age in the late 80s. A lot of his stuff is influenced by the post-crisis, like DC stuff, like Suicide Squad, for example, right? But here is the problem. A lot of people who write comic books, they like old comic books. They like characters from old comic books. They like reintroducing characters from old comic books. And they don't like editorials saying things like, man, maybe this character from an old comic book doesn't need to exist. So you are left with a problem, an editorial problem. Editorial has dictated Superman must be the last living survivor of Krypton. That's your problem on one hand. But on the other hand, a whole bunch of writers are like, but we like Supergirl, right? We should have a Supergirl. So there is this interesting period that goes for, I think, about 15 years, where they try through various permutations to reintroduce the character of Supergirl, while also maintaining the illusion that Superman is the last survivor of Krypton. And that leads to a circumstance where, to reference the comic that Eric brought up there, which is the 1994 written by Roger Stern Supergirl miniseries, what they settle on is, what if there was a shape-shifting alien who was convinced that it was Superman's cousin, and it was Kara Zor-El, and also she was kind of adopted by Lex Luthor, and Lex Luthor had his own Superman, but it was also Supergirl, but also she was a shape-shifting alien, and also there was some weird gender stuff going on there, and also it was a commentary on the idea of like mass-market superheroes. It is a really fascinating snapshot of like the history of the character, where that 4-issue series, which I believe spins out of the aftermath of the death of Superman, is like so much about the idea of Superman as a brand. Like, there is the second issue of that series is quite literally Supergirl flying to, is it Singapore or Hong Kong, and discovering knockoff action figures that are being sold of her in the street using her branding, and discovering that Lex has licensed her likeness in order to make money. It is like really fascinating. But yeah, basically we don't reintroduce like the proper Kara Zor-El cousin of Superman, survivor of Krypton, until I believe Jeff Loeb and Mike Turner's Superman Batman in the mid 2000s.
Wow.
But like that's there's a period of like 20 years where Supergirl in her classic format just does not exist, and you have writers trying to get around the idea of we want there to be a Supergirl, but we can't have the traditional Supergirl, which I think is one of the reasons why the character is like as messed up as she is, because there's 20 years where she just couldn't exist. Same thing happens with the Legion of Superheroes, where the Legions of Superheroes are this big Silver Age thing. In the reboot, they're completely wiped out. And then for 20 years, you have a bunch of writers going, but we really like the Legion of Superheroes. And it isn't until like 2006 that they're just like, you know what? Sod it. We're going back to the Silver Age, back to the 60s. And it is so fascinating because like all this stuff ends up being like jumbled and messy. And it, I think, is one of the reasons why those characters are so difficult to adapt, because so much of their history is just like a bunch of writers trying to sneak stuff in like under the radar to get something that is like an approximation of the thing that they remember, but not the pure idea. So that's a very long rambling answer to I remember Matrix Supergirl, I believe is what she was called.
Now, Jack, you have a lot of time of day for this Supergirl, apparently, this movie.
Listen, in the chat, they're bringing up Power Girl, who I don't believe is a clone of Supergirl. I believe Power Girl is Supergirl from an alternate universe.
Yeah.
But is essentially Kara Zor-El, is essentially Supergirl, but from another universe. I grew up watching the Supergirl movie. We had very few movies in my house. I would have to steal movies from my cousin who would tape them off of HBO. But one of the movies we had, because my mother was a feminist, we had Supergirl. So one of the few movies I could watch at any given time. It is a bad movie. And I do like, I lashed out at Darren. I lashed out as Darren because when he said it was a bad movie, there was no love in there, but there's love in my heart.
Yeah.
To give credit where it's due, I do like that it is like about magic and witchcraft. And like that is like the one good idea that it has. And it like, you're like, are they doing this to make a commentary on like the gender association between women and witches? And is Faye Dunaway's involvement a very clever metatextual acknowledgement of this character's relationship to masculinity? Like, no, they're doing it because it allows them to have an invisible monster, because that keeps the budget down. And also because it makes it easier for this comic book stuff to work. I don't know.
Marty, the main conflict of the 80s Supergirl movies is her and a witch fighting over a man.
Fighting over Hart Bochner from Die Hard. Like I rewatched like Supergirl recently, and this guy appears, and I'm like, that man has a weird facial structure. I don't recognize that chin. And then he scoffs, and the moment he scoffs, I'm like, oh, he's the cokehead yuppie from Die Hard.
Hans Booby.
Yeah. It's incredible because like that it's like when you see beardless Spielberg. It's like that just your eyes can't make the connection. But the moment he goes, you're like, fuck, I know, I recognize that yuppie scoff anywhere.
Tell me about the watch. Yeah. So like, no, it's bad. It's structureless. It's incredibly sexist, but it has a firm place in my heart. And Kelly Slater. I mean, come on.
Love a
Helen Slater, right? Helen Slater?
Huh? Helen Slater?
Kelly Slater's a surfer.
Kelly
was
Slater.
a famous 90s surfer, actually. Had his own game. Kelly Surfer's pro surfing. Kelly Surfer? Kelly Slater. That'd be cool if he was named Kelly Surfer.
Nice.
Jomo Slomo, thank you so much for the dono. Finally saw the pilot of Widow's Bay yesterday. Love the humor, and Stephen Root is always appreciated. Looking forward to seeing more. Sorry that we spoiled the entire thing for you. Hopefully you got out of the way of that. Also, the show is great. You can watch.
Also, just watch the show.
I guess you could say we got to the root of the matter. Yeah.
You got rooted. Sussy Guru, thank you so much for a dono. It's not art's job to offer solutions to problems. Followed up by Nick Knoll with a dono saying, you want a movie that proposes solutions? Watch Neil Breen. Inside of us are two wolves. Yeah.
Wrestling, yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's a mishmash. It's all right.
Yeah. Quintuple with a $2 dono. Thank you so much. Rather than having an off week, you should do trivia. We need the off week so we could do the episode the following week. Quintuple, you're just slave driving us. This is awful. No, we'll take a little. This is gonna be the rewind summer break so that we don't have to cover Moana live action. And so that we can be topical.
I'm actually kind of curious. Like, what is in the week between Odyssey and Spider-Man? Like, what is in the Death Squad? What is in the Death Zone? Because Moana is like
Evil Dead Burn.
Oh, they're screening that early. Okay. No,
July 10th, at least on my thing. I don't know if it moved, but July 10th.
No, but July 10th is before. So Odyssey is like 17th, and then
I literally have nothing in between them, to be honest. So that would be the 24th.
If trends continue, Obsession will still be in theaters. Then, so.
I believe Obsession just released on VOD, which is exciting.
Did it? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But it is still screening here, and I think like Eric and Jack mentioned, it's still screening in theirs, which is incredible.
It was the other. I have two art house cinemas. One only has 2 screens. One was Supergirl. The other was still Obsession.
Yeah,
which is
that's a bold use of the word art house for Supergirl.
I mean, it can only truly be appreciated. Okay, so hold on. I'm looking at my Okay. Just looking at like what is on the docket for the release of like weekend of 23rd. I want you to brace yourself. We have Bad Counselors starring Missy Pyle and Chris Klein, the hottest release of 2026. What? We have Motor City starring Alan Ritchson. That's right, Reacher himself. We have Pinocchio Unstrung, which is like one of those, this character's now in the public domain. We do have the Hadestown the musical, which is a filming of like the stage musical, very much in the style of Hamilton, and the big release of the week, the big release of July 24th, the one that everybody's getting out of the way, the one that Nolan moved a week early for, and the one that like Spider-Man moved a week later to get out of the way of, is Her Private Hell, the new Nicholas Winding Refn movie starring Sophie Thatcher, Dougray Scott, Charles Melton, and Havana Rose Louis.
Wasn't that hated at Cannes? Like fucking despised coming out of the festival. I'm very excited for this.
Yeah.
I got a lot of time for Nicholas Winding Refn. Yeah.
Have you got the 10 hours it takes to watch the Miles Teller Amazon TV show that doesn't exist anymore?
That may or may not be about vampires. Yeah. I have never seen that. In my mind, it's like a Schrodinger's Vampires. It might be about vampires, but it might not be.
It's like the experience of like before you watch Sugar. It's like, this could be a werewolf show. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It could be an angel show. Who knows? Robert Dooley, thank you so much. Darren, if any comic book writer could be the EIC of Marvel, who would it be? I would personally pick Hickman for the role.
Yes, that's a very boring answer, but I agree entirely. Like that, but it's like you want. The thing is, like, writing and editing are very different skills, with all due respect to Jim Shooter. And it is, like, often a good editor is not a great writer, and sometimes a great writer is not a great editor, etc., etc. I do think you want to pick somebody who has managed a brand, and I do think, like, Hickman has managed, like, the X-Men line, for example. He did some good work recently on the Ultimates line, and I think that, like, alternatively, like, what Scott Snyder is doing with the Absolute line over at DC would suggest that he would probably also be a good person to put in that capacity. Those would be kind of the two people I would pick. I know that I'm going to pick a writer who has never worked at Marvel. He would be a great editor at Marvel. Yeah. But I'm trying to think of just like comic book writers who have actually like managed a line in the past. Those are the kind of two that jump out to me. Yeah, I think so. Nice. I'm trying to think. Great. Anything else? Spider-Man guys.
Spider-Man guys, yeah.
I could pick Bendis and like make everybody mad, but I'm not going to do that.
Even people who like Bendis would be mad.
How dare you?
Yeah. Every arc has to be 12 issues long.
Oh, fuck. And I'll write every single one. God damn it, Bendis.
What could possibly go wrong?
Put your pen down, brother.
Hope you guys like David Mamet.
Put him in charge. That sounds fine.
Oh, sure, David Mamet.
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong? Let's save the rest of the super chats
Spider-Man movies have like a weirdly aggro masculine energy.
I don't know. He doesn't seem our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man at all in this.
Right.
Cool. Let's go over other stuff we've been watching before we wrap up the rest of the super chats. Darren, you had a couple biggies on your list. What were you watching this week?
So just in terms of like new releases that are coming up here, first of all, what's already in cinemas, Jackass Best and Last, which is the 5th, I believe, movie in the Jackass cinematic franchise. I'm not a huge Jackass guy. I think we talked about this with Jackass Forever, which was released 2 years ago.
I feel like I'm the only one at Second Wind who was like very pro Jackass. We were in a call the other day, and no one, not even Jack.
No,
I thought it'd be right down the middle for you.
I actively dislike Jackass. It goes against my core principles.
I want to elaborate on that, like, Jack. Is it just that it's not funny?
I don't think people getting hurt is funny. and I don't think pranking people is funny. And so Jackass is the two things that I legitimately despise about comedy and entertainment. Is like, let's hurt each other with pranks is the worst of the worst.
What if it's the ones that are purely what if it's Johnny Knoxville being like, I'm Johnny Knoxville and I'm going to fight this bull? That's not a prank. That's not him hurting someone else. That's putting himself.
Yeah, I dislike that.
Okay.
I don't think it is good to put yourself in danger.
Yeah. I don't think Johnny Knoxville should do things that get him literally sent to hospital. That. But no, I think, we talked to this with Jackass Forever, where like Jackass Forever, I say that as somebody who did not love Jackass as a teenager, I found oddly moving, right? And like one of the things that I found oddly moving about Jackass Forever is the sense in which it's like, it is about these people who have done this thing for so long and have done it forever. And it kind of does have that thing of like, not to, indulge in cliches, but the 30-year-old men starting a podcast together because men have difficulty expressing friendship in other forms. They have to be doing stuff together. But like the big energy of Jackass Forever was the sense of like, these are guys who like are friends with one another and they have maintained that friendship by doing Jackass for as long as they have. And part of like what I found strangely moving and sincerely affecting about Jackass Forever was the sense of like the recognition that Johnny Knoxville had done this thing with the bull, and it had basically put him in hospital and pretty much limited his capacity to do anything more. And that would, to Jack's point about like the cruelty of Jackass, which I have always had an issue with, the violence of Jackass, which admittedly, like, not to be prudish, I have always had a bit of an issue with. The thing that like made it at all bearable was that like Knoxville kind of always took the worst on himself in a way that like there's a reason why he was the leader of the gang and there's a reason why he was the face of it, was because he did that thing that a good leader does, which is he would never ask anybody to do anything that he wouldn't do himself. And therefore Knoxville getting mauled by the bull and being sent to hospital and being told he cannot do this anymore should conceptually be a death knell to Jackass, because if he can't do it anymore, you can't ask other people to do things that he wouldn't do. It throws off the balance of the show. And my issue with Jackass Best and Last is kind of twofold, which is you got me sincerely with the last movie on the promise that it was the last movie. Therefore, you releasing a follow-up like 2 years later kind of feels a little bit cheeky on your part. It feels a little disingenuous, and it makes me feel a little skeptical about the emotional reaction that I had to that, where I was like, those guys, I hope they take up knitting or something together. Like, that ending is somewhat undermined. The second thing is that because of the injury and because they're getting older, the movie cannot do as many stunts as the previous movies did, so it has to become a clip show. And it involves like clips, some of which have been seen, some of which have been seen in parts, some of which have never been seen before from like the history of the show. And so it has like the structure of a clip show with occasional new stunts kind of sprinkled in. And I have never been a fan of the format of the clip show when it is on television available for free. And I am certainly not a fan of the clip show when it is something that you pay for in theaters. And then like with that in mind, even the new stuff then obviously has to be kind of tamer, because they are getting older. And also the fact that like the clip stuff, Jack kind of mentioned this, the idea of like pranks and the idea of stunts. And this is a me thing. I'm going to put my hands up and say this is just a Darren's relation Jackass thing. I like the stunt stuff better than I like the prank stuff. And maybe I can make some artsy-fartsy argument for it, where like it is a clear homage to like Buster Keaton. Like the closing credits of this movie thank like Spike Jonze, Buster Keaton, and like Seth Green. Like it's just an eccentric
the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost of pop culture.
But like it thanks like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin and Harold Lloyd, and like that is part of the fabric of Jackass, as juvenile and as stupid as it is. So the stunts I am generally interested in and I'm generally impressed by. The pranks I have never really liked, because to Jack's point, there is a certain cruelty to them that is like not present in the, you know what you're getting into and you're choosing what you're getting into and you consent to this before we do it. And I think that like, because the show or the franchise has evolved with that on, I think the franchise has gotten more kind of like humanist as it's gone on. It's kind of softened the edges a little bit in a way that I like. Maybe hardcore fans don't like. Maybe they're like, bring back pure Jackass. But I like that like as Jackass has gotten older, as Johnny Knoxville has let his hair grow white, it has become like more comfortable in like emotional honesty and like friendship and like companionship and the idea that this is a weird bonding thing that we do. So when you show me the clips of them doing pranks, it feels a little tonally out of place with like what the Jackass crew to me is now, which is like a bunch of people having fun, where some of those pranks do feel very mean-spirited and do feel very like juvenile and very young men, very kind of edgy. So yeah, that stuff threw me off. But that said, all of that said, I did find myself, oddly enough, that the movie fucking got me again. What? They show the opening footage, which is the footage of Johnny Knoxville doing the famous stunt that started Jackass, which is going out in the desert and shooting himself with a gun, which is the stunt that inspired Jackass, which was never aired for obvious reasons because it's too easily reproduced by children, but it is finally shown. And it's like, oh, it's kind of sweet to have the very beginnings of Jackass kind of shown. And at the end, as they're kind of all old together and they're kind of accepting that they're moving on again, part of me is like, you can't fucking do it twice. But it works on me again, where I'm like, they're so old and they've been through so much together. And to give like one more piece of credit before I finish up on this, the opening credits that do the Jamiroquai Virtual Insanity video, I found really charming. That was like one stunt where I was like, that's very clever and very fun. And it's a nice understanding of like the waves of nostalgia in which you exist. But aside from that, I unfortunately did not care that much for Jackass Best and Last, alas.
Jackass to me always feels like the Homer's review of the Springfield Short Film Festival, where he's like, Barney's movie had heart, football in the groin had a football to the groin. I'm like,
Marty,
my brain understands things are better, but football to the groin had a football to the groin. So I don't know what we're supposed to do.
The last Jackass had the football to the groin and heart simultaneously. It's no problem. Yeah. They've shown that they could do this. And like, there is a moment where they like have Knoxville tied up in an electric chair and they ask him, you said in the promo tour for the last movie that it was the last Jackass movie. Are you really expecting cinema goers to believe that this is the last Jackass movie? And I'm like, it's fair that you're raising that question, but don't rub my nose in this movie. Yeah. You don't get to do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's telling. I've seen all the other ones in theaters, and I have not seen this one in theaters yet, and I'm not sure if I'm going to. I'm going to see it when it comes to VOD, but the idea of the clip show thing, like, that is kind of like, really? This is what I'm paying? It's...
Yeah, and like, I understand that you can't expect them to do what they were doing, but that's also a stop making Jackass movies.
That's like a question you should have asked right at the start of the production. And they tried to like bring in like the new generation, but people never really clicked with those young psychopaths.
And to be fair, like they are like they're very inclusive of the psychopaths, the young people. Like they make a point to include them in the bits.
Darren, was that? I referred to them as the psychopaths. Yes, they've got their new flock of young psychopaths, and Darren accidentally called them psychopaths.
Instead of saying young people, I said psychopaths. I was like, let me engage with Marty's point. But like they do make a point to like bring the young people in and to include them. But like there is also like the issue of like, you know, we have a woman who is now part of the Jackass crew, and it's like, there are things that you cannot do to a woman in Jackass without it becoming very uncomfortable for everybody involved. So she ends up kind of standing around and clapping and cheering and making witty one-liners, and you're like, does feel a little bit like you've got no idea what to do now that she's here, which is a shame. I think the clip that Eric has there with the scorpion, they don't do that with her. They do that with Booty. They do that with sorry, Poopy. Isn't that the guy? That's the new one. They do it with a guy.
It's not Booty, it's Poopy, Darren.
Poopy.
And it's kind of rude of you to not know the difference between those two.
It is culturally
You called Poopy a psychopath? Jack, he called Poopy a psychopath.
What I just want is for that clip to exist on its own. You called Booty Poopy, and then how dare you get his name wrong? And then you called Booty a psychopath?
No, he called Poopy Booty.
I'm just so I cannot with Jackass. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Poopy Booty.
And then also releasing this week, Minions versus Monsters, which I believe I can give a social reaction to, which is I had a pretty good time with it. It's not a masterpiece. It is maybe the best movie featuring the Minions since the original Despicable Me, which I thought was a very good movie as well. The rest have been varying degrees of like diminishing returns. This is a movie that kind of works because it understands the Minions, which is not to get all Mark Kermode about it, but the Minions are silent comedy characters. They are sketch comedy characters who are built around physical comedy, and it has always been an issue. Like, the reason why the first Despicable Me works is because the Minions are secondary characters in it. It is Gru's story, and therefore, like, you get the Minions having like little physical comedy bits, but they don't have to drive the narrative. And every Despicable Me and Minions movie since has kind of suffered from the Minions are massively popular. They need to be at the center of the story. How do we tell a story with like yellow Tic Tacs that speak in broken Spanish, Portuguese, and French? And what I quite like about Minions and Monsters structurally is that it understands that they are basically like one-reeler characters. And it is a movie that, due to its setting, which is it is set in 1920s Hollywood, decides that it can just forgo the idea of a single overarching plot or structure, and can instead just be a series of small vignettes largely built around like mid-century movies, and so manages to be incredibly charming. Like, to give you a sense of how like weird this movie is in terms of structure, it is narrated from the future by Alison Janney, but that character is there at the start of the movie and the end of the movie and is not present for like the middle hour of it. The first hour of the movie has like huge supporting performances from Jeff Bridges as a studio mogul and Christoph Waltz as like a Fritz Lang Murnau director, but both of those characters just disappear from the movie at the halfway point. Then at the halfway point, the movie introduces Dort, who is a possibly cosplaying robot played by Jesse Eisenberg, who takes over the main driving of the narrative as a human character. The movie has no real central structure or plot, and I found it really charming because it doesn't even pretend to. It is a movie that is like a loose assemblage of bits, and it is like, again, not to put too much on the shoulders of the Minions, and to accept that like Illumination is inherently a more cynical studio than other animation studios like Sony, or even like Pixar, or even Sony Pictures Animation. But like, there is a clear love of cinema that runs through this movie, where like this is unironically Babylon but with Minions.
I saw the trailer before He-Man and I was like, is this fucking Babylon with Minions? I literally saw the trailer. I was like, is this about like the evolution of Hollywood throughout the 20th century?
Think like literally. And again, I don't want to oversell it. It is very stupid.
You've already oversold it to me.
It has when you said Babylon but with Minions, Marty was just like, sold, take my money.
I was there.
But like, no plot, no overarching character. The characters drift in and out of the narrative as they're needed. But when I say Babylon but with Minions, think about like what the central crisis at the heart of Babylon is, which is the introduction of sound into movies. Think about the Minions as characters. Think about the idea of the Minions as actors in 1920s Hollywood. Yes, they take the central plot beat of Babylon, which is the idea that the introduction of sound destroyed the career of silent movie stars, and they apply it to the little yellow Tic Tac monsters. It is stunningly committed to its premise. There is a and again, I'm willing to put my hands up and say, I am like Jackass, I am an easy mark for this. There is a sequence early in the movie when they run through a factory and they bump into Charlie Chaplin and they knock him through the gears like in modern times. And then they're running outside and they grab a ladder to go chase the other guys, and they leave Harry Lloyd like hanging from the clock like he is in safety last. And then in the rule of three, they run across a rooftop and the facade of the roof starts to crack, and the joke is so perfectly timed that it gives you exactly the right amount to realize, like, rule of three, they've done Chaplin, they've done Lloyd. Of course, the front of the house falls down and Buster Keaton goes through the window. And you're like, I am such an easy mark for this. This is like, this. I am willing to put my hands up and say, you got, like, you found the Darren button and you pushed it. If you show me...
I was about to say, we're against dangling keys, but if you're dangling keys of cinema from 100 years ago... I'm actually
Yeah.
on board, actually.
What about dangling keychains? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. But there's a moment they do the end of they do the start of Citizen Kane, but with minions, and it's like the minion is holding like a little snow globe, and it falls from his, and you get the close up of the mouth with the mustache on it, and it's supposed to say Rosebud, and it's like brah, brah, and like you just like it's incredible. It's so good. It is.
This is gonna be a generation's version of The Simpsons, where to us of like, oh, that's what that's from. Like you're gonna get kids who watch this movie, and when they turn into teenagers and young adults, start like widening the boundaries of their film literacy, and they're gonna see these silent films or Citizen Kane and be like, oh shit, that's what the Minions was riffing on.
Minions is like again, I don't want to oversell this, but the fact that this opens with a proper like title credit sequence that lists the cast that are going to appear in the movie, and it does that like while playing like clips from like silent cinema from like 1900 cinema, where like the minions appear in that train arrives at a station sequence, or they CGI the minions into George Malay's To the Moon and stuff like that, and I'm like, I know I'm being pandered to. I know I'm being pandered to so hard, but I'm also kind of enjoying being pandered to. And like, again, not a great movie, not going to bother my end of year top 40 or whatever, but I had a big stupid grin watching it. Even stuff like the Jesse Eisenberg like Dort is like such like, it is such a good bit because the movie knows exactly how much of the bit it can do, where the idea is that like the minions like stumble across this guy who looks like he's cosplaying as like, one of the guys in The Day the Earth Stood Still or whatever. And he's voiced by Jesse Eisenberg, and they're like big bad. And they immediately like latch onto this guy as their next evil leader. But like the joke is that it seems like he's very much a guy in a costume, where he goes back to his secret lair, and his secret lair looks like an apartment that he shares with a roommate, Carl, and all that sort of stuff.
That's good.
And like Jesse Eisenberg, like gets romanced by women's suffrage and stuff like that. And it is like, it's very, very charming. It is very charming. It is not perfect. It is not great. If you have no patience for the minions, if you find them annoying or irritating, it is not going to change your mind about them. But I will say that, like, having watched far too many of these movies, this is the best one since the first one.
Did you have a better time at this than Toy Story 5? Yes or no?
Significantly.
Oh, God.
The tough question is Hoppers, and I think the answer is this. Like,
This over Hoppers?
This over Hoppers. Like that's the one that hurts, because Hoppers is like fine until you get to my mind, the disastrous third act. Thing about Minions is because they don't have a structure, it's impossible to have a disastrous third act. It's like, congratulations, you outwitted the
secret sauce.
As the parent here, I was rife for Minions to be everywhere. Luckily, my children never got into Minions, but they were everywhere within my life, and I hate them with a fiery passion.
I don't like the idea of the Minions. I don't like how they sound. I don't like how they look.
I don't like anything about them.
Yeah.
Do you like the fact that the first Minions solo movie goes out of its way to explain that they were in a cave between the years 1939 and 1946?
Because I want them to explore where were they during the rise of the Third Reich.
Because they find like Napoleon, and they're like, just so we're clear, Napoleon is the line.
Yep.
Yep. Also, where were you in 2001? Maybe September. Just let us know. Let us know where you are.
Sometime in early
Put that out there.
Um,
Amazing.
What else?
And then
you've also seen The Invite.
That's it. The one actually,
which I've heard is very good.
I kind of do have to recommend after spending 10 minutes raving about Minions and monsters.
Yeah.
No, The Invite is like legitimately good. The Invite is legitimately like one of the best movies I have seen this year. This is Olivia Wilde's third movie, an adaptation of a French movie. It is very French. As you're watching it, it becomes increasingly French as it goes on. Adapted by Will McCormick and Rashida Jones of A Blink of an Eye fame. And it is...
also, didn't she write a Toy Story, or almost wrote a Toy Story?
She worked on Toy Story 4 and then left Toy Story 4 because the environment was not welcoming, I think is how she described it. And there's been a lot of debate over what exactly that means, and she has been very clear that she does not like people speculating, so please stop doing that. But yeah, understandable. But like, she obviously clearly likes Andrew Stanton because she did go on to star in the movie that everybody's raving about in 2026, A Blink of an Eye, available on
that
Hulu
we all
now.
knew existed before this podcast.
Yes.
That we definitely knew existed before an hour ago.
Yeah. But The Invite is really good. I don't want to talk too much about it because it is a movie very much like the drama from earlier this year, where it is like it's kind of like a social comedy thriller type situation where the joy of it is as an audience member experiencing what the characters experience in real time, navigating a precarious social situation. But it's basically the story of a couple in San Francisco, played by obviously Olivia Wilde and Seth Rogen, having worked together on The Studio. And she invites their upstairs neighbors to come down and visit to see the apartment. That's Ed Norton and Penelope Cruz. It is very clear from the outset that their marriage is in a very troubled space. Rogen is clearly not in the mood for having the couple to come over to visit. They have she is very eager to impress them. She thinks they're very sophisticated and very cultured. Rogen is just upset at how loud they are when they're having sex upstairs over their heads. And basically, as the conversation unfolds between the couples, you get this kind of push and pull and this kind of this comedy of manners, which is very French, but it also manages to kind of tap into something that I really like in terms of Wilde cinema. And I say this as somebody who really loved Booksmart, did not care for Don't Worry Darling at all. But Wilde kind of does have this sensibility of a 1970s film director. And you could argue even looking at her personal life, she has the style of a 1970s film director, but she's very clearly interested in making the kinds of movies that she loves and she's interested in, and which don't really exist anymore. And so what you have is this basically chamber piece of two couples trapped in an apartment together, navigating the complicated interpersonal relationships and dynamics that result from that, with four really great performances at its core. Wilde is very good. I've always been very fond of Wilde as an actor. Rogen has unlocked something in himself recently. I don't want to say the Fabelmans kind of awoke something inside Rogen, but it's not a performance that is a million miles away from his work in the Fabelmans. Norton, who is I have always had stock in Norton, and I know that there was a time when he was very annoying as a performer, and I know there's a time when he was very annoying as the guy who was crowned the next, De Niro. But as somebody who loved Norton in the 90s and who has really loved the post-serious actor Norton, the guy who's a Wes Anderson regular, I was really charmed by his work here. He is very funny. Very capable of doing big dramatic lifting when needed, but also capable of delivering punchlines in a way that only a kind of dramatic heavy can. And then obviously there's Penelope Cruz, who is, not to evoke the specter of disgraced director Woody Allen, which is inherent in we're doing a movie that is a comedy about adult relations in a city where we all live together, and it is kind of a chamber piece about how awkward people interact with each other. But casting Penelope Cruz, who won an Oscar for her work on Vicky Cristina Barcelona, which is, one of the last Woody Allen movies to kind of really break through, does feel like a kind of a statement of intent from Wilde. And it is a movie that feels kind of like those 1970s, we mentioned Allen, but Cassavetes kind of movies, where it is funny and it is charming and there are laugh out loud moments in it, but there is also this really incredible sense of emotional peril and threat, where it's you're never watching the movie thinking one of the characters is going to, I don't know, stab somebody with a knife, but there is a sense that at the end of the evening, somebody in that room may be left in a state from which they will not be able to recover. And as the movie progresses, you're which character is it going to be? Or which characters is it going to be? Which is a really nice energy. And again, just to shout out Wilde, who again, I didn't like Don't Worry Darling. I really did like Booksmart. Very clever in her framing, very clever in her composition. She's very good at framing where the characters are in particular scenes, using this physical set of the apartment. Characters are constantly blocked, so they're she's very deliberate about when characters are in frame with other characters, when characters are in frame with other characters, but framed within that frame, so they're kind of isolated. It's a very good movie to watch in terms of visual storytelling, where every directorial choice that Wilde makes is very well observed, very thoughtful, and communicates something about the subtext of what is happening in this otherwise very pleasant conversation that is taking place between two sets of neighbors. Cannot recommend it enough, particularly if you're looking for a comedy, particularly if you're looking for something with a little bit of drama. So yeah, I would wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I think it gets a wider release in the US this weekend. It's opening up in a few theaters in Madison this weekend. So I've heard nothing but good things from you and from other critics I trust. So
it's a delight.
excited about that.
Neat.
Jack, what have you been watching?
Digging into the backlogs. I rewatched Inception. I think for the first time since I originally saw it. I've always been a big fan of Inception. So no hot takes here today. Marty.
Oh, we lost Marty, and now I'm divided. I'm a house divided.
Marty does
it.
not care for Inception, so he has decided to leave. He didn't want to tell Darren that. Darren.
No Nolan talk. I'm no man for Nolan.
But showing it to my kids for the first time as they get more into film, and just watching their mind get absolutely blown by how truly brilliant it is. I think Inception is one of those near perfect movies. I do have to, I say near perfect because I cannot forgive that man for his sound mixing. And I don't want to be.
This isn't even the movie where it starts. This is like the last well sound mixed Nolan movie. This is like the last convention. You were merely born to the darkness. I was raised in it.
Yeah, I think it got worse. We had to turn on subtitles. We could not hear the characters, and I have a nice sound system in my main movie watching area. We had to turn on subtitles.
Did your house shake with that Hans Zimmer boom?
But you know what? Still, like even with the subtitles ruining all the shot compositions, damn near perfect movie. So that's no controversy here. Inception is great. Everyone, we love Inception.
The platonic ideal of like a summer blockbuster, which is kind of an original concept, which is great, and like just it's a smack bang. You explain the premise to people and they just immediately get it. And I know that there are people who are like, it should be more creative, it should be more like Paprika, and I'm like, no, what the movie knows what it's doing, which is it's making an $800 million accessible like July blockbuster for audiences, and it's such an easy watch.
Well, it did lead us to an interesting conversation because in general, generally speaking, we always say show don't tell. We want it's okay to leave some of the technical aspects as a mystery and just kind of let the fun happen. And Inception is one of those kind of exceptions that makes the rule, where they go into excessive detail about how everything works, and that makes the movie work so much smoother because you're not questioning anything.
But also it's a heist movie, and the way that it works is the logic of a heist movie, which is the first half of a heist movie is always the characters explaining how things are going to work and laying out how things are supposed to work and the rules that they're going to follow. And the best heist movies are the ones that having told you all of that and having laid out all those expectations immediately are like, yoink, that's not how this is going to work. These characters are going to have to improvise. There's the wonderful moment where Joseph Gordon-Levitt says to Elliot Page, it's you notice how often he keeps doing things he tells you not to. And I love how committed Inception is to an hour of Cobb telling you things you are not supposed to do, and then immediately just going, by the way, that thing I told us not to do, we're doing it. And as an audience, because he spent so long hammering, you're like, oh, shit is serious. It's
brilliant. It's brilliant. And it is I had something and it's now disappeared.
Oh my god, like a dream.
Oh my god, they got it from the safe in your mind. Yeah, they got
a dream.
Wait, so you were pro Inception. Sorry. As soon as you started talking about Inception, my computer restarted.
I know you are.
I wasn't upset, he's talking about Inception again.
Again.
Yeah.
Star Trek talk I can take, but
incredibly pro Inception, except for the sound mixing, which we had to turn subtitles on, which I think is a failure of any movie master. If I have to turn subtitles on, you're doing something wrong. But no, wonderful, wonderful seeing it through the eyes of people who've never seen it before and watching them understand how absolutely brilliant it is. Mm-hmm. The other throwback that I watched, it was my first time watching it. I am a big fan of rom-coms. I'm a big fan of teen movies, and I had somehow never seen 10 Things I Hate About You. So I finally watched that, and first of all I have to say here,
the ledger,
just take it right off the ledger. All I have to say is Julia Stiles is the shrew. Get out of town. It was also someone explaining to me what
style at the time.
what Taming of the Shrew is, which I'd always known the name, but I never knew kind of the plot of the Taming of the Shrew, which is, listen here,
Women,
daughter.
right? Yeah, it's like women. Am I right? Like it is very much an 80s stand-up comedy set by William Shakespeare.
Yes. It was it was saying like, daughter, you cannot get married unless you get your ugly sister a date.
And they cut to her, you're like, what?
And then it's Julia Stiles. And I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. It's like oh my God, look at the nerd in glasses. Oh, she took her glasses off and she's actually
her hair
beautiful.
down. Yeah.
Exactly. It was, and it's everything. And of course, like I had seen stuff like Not Another Teen Movie, which directly spoofs some of the things in there, but never seen the source material. It's a delightful movie. Obviously, much beloved by many. Seeing Heath Ledger that young and that pretty, God damn it, that
pretty.
Boy was pretty,
very pretty. Also,
Very
a lot of Nolan links. You got Ledger, obviously, as the Joker. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. David Krumholtz is in it. Of Oppenheimer fame. Also, he was the dad in Supergirl.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Really delightful. And more so. I'm trying to remember the name of the band now. The more of not Sixpence None the Richer.
No, it was like so. Kiss Me, isn't that the one? Not Sixpence None the Richer.
That's Sixpence None the Richer, but that's a different. That's
teen movie. Oh, okay.
That's
the Letters to Cleo. I want
Letters
you
to Cleo. Yes. The more letters to Cleo we can get in movies, the better. So no, it just, a delightful rewatch or a delightful first watch for me. But also it is a movie that was so 90s. The dialogue happens at breakneck speed, almost to the point where I had to pause it just to make my brain mentally adjust to all of the pop culture references that were happening. And it's like, God damn you, Kevin Smith, you ruined movies for a little bit.
It's very in the style of like Clueless being an adaptation of Emma. I like that like period. Again, it's weird not to indulge in stereotypes about like the state of modern pop culture, but it is so great that there was a time in the 90s when like studio executives were like, you know what, we can't reach these young kids. They're too hip and too cool and too with it. And it's like, what are we gonna do? Adaptation of Jane Austen and Shakespeare, but set them in high school, and it's like the kids yearn for Jane Austen and Shakespeare.
And
they kind of work though. Like AZA even works. Being the Scarlet Letter, like it kind of works if you filter those classic stories through.
Yeah.
And now I'm just sitting watching the Minecraft movie, staring into the abyss.
Right.
It also says here, I don't know if you
were like, Nigel Hawthorne, but anyway, sorry.
Yeah. I don't know. You had this written down. I don't know if you didn't want to talk about it, but you also watched Serendipity. I fucking love Serendipity.
I assume we're talking about the John Cusack rom-com,
Yes, we were talking about the John Cusack rom-com, a movie I'd never heard of it. Never heard of it in my life. And then I look up, I was like, oh, this was released 2 months after 9/11.
Yeah.
This got buried. It did bring up like an interesting. So this is actually a very interesting rom-com in which, for anyone who watches as much rom-coms as I do, that there is this idea of the meet cute when our two protagonists meet and first fall in love. And so the idea of Serendipity is, what if the meet cute was the entire fucking movie? Mm-hmm. And I think it's brilliant. I don't think it's too much to say that it's a brilliantly written movie. It's a cheap rom-com. It is it's very interesting. It's very fascinating. It's very, very fascinating how they handle, generally speaking, in a rom-com, you have to villainize the partners, right? Like if the girl goes back to her hometown and falls in love with the hometown guy, the guy she was supposed to marry has to be a real loser.
Yeah, real controlling asshole.
Controlling asshole to make it okay for our
Bill Pullman and While You Were Sleeping, who's just like, you know what? I don't really care. Yeah. that's the other alternative mode.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, we've invited everybody to the wedding. It's happening in 2 weeks, and we spent a lot of money on it. But you trust your feeling in this moment. Yeah.
Right, and so like they do a really good job with, and I don't know who Serendipity 19. Nope, that's the 2019 thriller Serendipity.
Are you sure you're not thinking of Serenity?
Serenity.
Because listen, we have time for Serenity.
in which Matthew McConaughey hunts a tuna fish called Justice.
Kate Beckinsale has a fiance who is a like a prick new age artist, which I think is hilarious.
That's fun. That's
Jeremy
so
Piven, is it?
No, Jeremy Piven is the best friend. Is John Cusack's best friend.
Okay.
But who is it? It's John Corbett or Corbett. I don't know who.
It's Barry Corbett, the director of The Brutalist.
One of the Sex and the City
nice.
guys.
One of the Sex and the City guys plays a new age artist who's a little too full of himself. We love it that they break up, but John Cusack's romantic interest is just like a nice lady who's concerned that he's spending too much time not preparing for their wedding, which is tomorrow, because he spends the day before their wedding looking for this long lost love. And so it's one of those weird rom-coms where you're like, John Cusack is clearly an asshole, is clearly like an awful partner, but it's really cute and really fun.
You know what other movie rewatched must have been 2 years ago when the sequel came out, or the legacy or whatever, Twister. If you go back and watch the original Twister, Bill Paxton is in a relationship, and that woman did nothing wrong, and she is just trounced upon the entire movie until the point where she's just like, fuck it, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, I don't blame you. You should have gotten out of here a while ago, because this dude fucking sucks.
I was gonna say, is it like the tension in Twister? He's like, man, I really want to get close to that Twister, and she's like, I feel like we should maintain a safe distance from the Twister. Like, that's the conflict in that relationship. And I'm like, which one of the two are we siding with?
Well, remember, like, her big sin, because Twister was a movie of its time, her big sin was she's a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
She's like trying to help him work through.
She believes in mental health. What a loon.
It is why
That's
the
her
men will
sin.
chase Twisters rather than marry therapists.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting movie because it was so light, and it did, for me, it brought into mind this idea of like how many movies were completely produced before 9/11 and then released after 9/11 to kind of catch that tonal difference. This takes place majority in New York. We see a lot of skyline shots, not a single twin tower in sight.
Yeah.
Every second of those 2 months was spent going frame by frame through that film.
Just making sure. But
Zoolander's
so
the big one, isn't it? Zoolander is the big one, and obviously
Zoolander's the
Glitter,
big
which will
one.
be respected as a masterpiece if it hadn't come out. Yeah, that's the only thing.
The first Spider-Man movie had its first teaser for the first Raimi Spider-Man had him webbing a bank robber,
helicopter in between the Twin Towers.
Trying to remember, was it either the Wikipedia page for the movie Glitter or the Wikipedia page for 9/11, either of which is very bad, where the photo was like a billboard for Mariah Carey's Glitter with the burning two towers behind it.
Oh,
that's like,
it was just like the article.
Great for either of those.
No, it's like I don't want that on my like 9/11 Wikipedia page, and I don't want that on my Glitter Wikipedia page.
Yeah. So
incredible,
a fun little watch. Interesting movie, both technically speaking and just because of a movie of its time.
Yeah, absolutely. You rarely get movies that kind of straddle such a cataclysmic event like that.
Whereas, like, I think this might have been like a pretty successful like box office hit, if not for the destruction of Western civilization.
Sure,
because that's the real tragedy.
That's the real tragedy. The only big thing from me, which Jack, I don't believe you watched it yet, but I know Darren, you've seen. I'm caught up on the first 2 episodes of House of the Dragon, the new season, and I will say, obviously won't go into spoilers, but I'm enjoying it quite a bit. It is incredibly clear that season 2 was meant to end with the first episode of season 3, because it very much to me feels like the end of arguably, honestly, these 2 episodes.
Yes, that I would say. I kind of feel like it was meant to be the end of this episode. Was meant to be the end.
The moment episode 2 ends, which I think episode 1 is finally the big battle of the gullet that we've been promised. Most of the characters converging on one another, and then
the rest of the season is going to take place in a box, basically, as a result of what that.
We used all of our money on this one giant battle with multiple fronts on the sea and in the air, and now we will all be in dark rooms lit by candles the rest of the season.
There is literally, is it the set? Oh no, it's not. So that's not. Never mind. I was going to say something, but I'm not going to say it.
Gotcha.
We are out of candles.
We are out of candles. fundamentals. But yeah, I'm enjoying the first 2 episodes. I enjoyed the second episode actually more than the first episode. I feel like I'm a little bit numb to big spectacle action episodes. It was especially just kind of weird to start the season with one. Like it felt like I was like, ooh, I'm not even ready for this. I literally don't remember who a lot of these characters are. I had to watch like several 15-minute long recaps to be like, I completely forgot these several characters existed. Yeah,
I was on the Wikipedia page trying to match actors' faces at certain points. There were points where I would like Google the actor and be like, "Oh, that's who he is."
There's entire scenes where someone with long blonde hair in a helmet is killing dudes with a sword, and I'm like, "That's definitely Damon." And he takes off the helmet, and he's got one eye, and I was like, "That's not Damon." I clocked the wrong character. It's Eamon.
Many of the same letters. Many of the same letters.
Many of the same letters. But I'm enjoying it so far. It is a slightly weird thing because I like House of the Dragon. I don't love House of the Dragon, and it is weird to come off of Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which I capital L loved.
Yeah.
And then to go back from this, and it kind of reminded me of like going from, I think it was Andor season 1 to The Acolyte. And I was like, The Acolyte's not bad. And there's some parts of The Acolyte I think are quite good. But like I still have the taste of the Wagyu beef of Andor in my mouth. And now I'm eating it like a McDonald's burger. And sometimes the McDonald's burger hits, but and that's unfair to call House of the Dragon a McDonald's burger. But I kind of feel a little bit like that, or like going from, Wonder Man to the Punisher one shot, to where it's like, like we could do this. So why are we doing this? But yeah, I'm still happy to have more Thrones in my life, and yeah, excited to watch this one week to week.
Yeah. I mean, it's that conflict between it where it is like, it is just doing Game of Thrones. And the thing is, like, we have Game of Thrones at home. It's on HBO.
Yeah.
It's Game of Thrones. And, like, it's still massively popular. It's still one of the most watched shows on HBO Max and all that sort of stuff. Still a huge selling point for them. And obviously, like, there's still, like, a franchise that they're trying to expand. And it is very clear that, like, they're trying new things with Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which I think worked really well. But, like, House of the Dragon is just, like, prime. It is your, like, ribeye steak of, like, Game of Thrones. And the thing is, like, Game of Thrones, a large part of what made Game of Thrones so special was how ambitious it was and how unique it was and how there had never been anything like it in the history of television. So House of the Dragon is kind of weird because it's like, remember that thing that was so ambitious and so messy and like in part didn't cohere because nobody had done anything like it before in the history of the medium. Well, we're just going to do that again and again and again. And it's weird because it's like, in some ways, a more competent execution, particularly compared to the later seasons of Game of Thrones. But it is also a much less ambitious kind of project. Like it is a much which I find a really interesting tension in it, where I have a sneaking suspicion it will probably be a more satisfying project to watch all in than Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But it will also, to my mind, seems unlikely to ever hit like the insane highs of Game of Thrones of like, how are they doing this? How are they going to resolve this? Not necessarily. But like, whereas like House of the Dragon's just like, this is good television. It's well made. It's expensive. The cast are good. Contrary to what the internet says, the writers have a clear idea of what they're doing and what the show is about and what it's saying. Like, it is competently made television at the highest level of like production craft. And it's like, good enough. And it's like, I enjoy it. And like, I've seen half the season. It's quite good. I enjoyed it. I was kind of, my mind was blown by those first 2 episodes, where to your point, like, I do think we were a bit sniffy about the second season. And the reason we were sniffy about the second season is because it's become very clear the second season was 4/5 of a season. Quite enjoying it.
Yeah. And so I'm excited. Is this going to be a 4-season show? Have they said that for sure?
I think they've signaled it very loudly. I mean, again, every other day you're hearing announcements of like Warner's is doing an animated series set in Westeros or whatever, So who knows? Who knows?
Allison's got some ideas.
Oh, I undoubtedly.
What if we get the politics out of Game of Thrones?
Like, what if the divine right of the heir to the throne is like absolute? We like the show, we just don't agree with the messaging. We think that the son of the ruler is a cool guy who should be allowed to do whatever he wants, and if he wants to be an actor, he should be allowed to be an actor, and if he wants to run a studio, he should be allowed to run a studio. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, the Targaryens. That's what we're talking about here.
Yes. So yeah, that's been my big thing this week, other than the stuff we already talked about. Let's go over some super chats before we wrap up. Oh, and just as a reminder, Jenna is out today, so there's no 3 o'clock stream. I'm not saying we're going to go long.
I was looking at the clock.
I'm not saying we're going to go long. I'm just saying we're going to this is going to be done when it's done. We're not saying, don't talk about, we went the whole time without talking about the ST.
Oh, call it
the STD.
Yeah,
why?
That's Discovery. That's the Brian Fuller TV show.
Oh no! Wait, I have a genuine Star Trek question for you, because they announced a live action Persona TV series in the works at Netflix, and it's being showrun by someone who worked on something Star Trek.
Okay, Ronald D. Moore.
Monfett. You know who Monfett is? Monfett, who has previously written for shows like 12 Monkeys at Sci-Fi, Star Trek Picard, and Paramount. At Paramount Plus, and 911 on Fox and ABC.
I may not have been paying particular attention to the Star Trek Picard writers' room. With all due respect to the Star Trek Picard writers' room, I wasn't like, that's a pool of talent to watch. With all due respect to Michael Chabon.
Almost no doubt in my life this is going to be bad, but I'm excited for it.
So there you go.
Yeah. The One Piece live action was good, so maybe this could be good. He says through tears.
Isn't Avatar The Last Airbender got a second season this week or something?
Yeah, and apparently it's very bad. I was never a big Avatar The Last Airbender guy. Yeah.
There you go.
I know it's like one of Casey's favorite things, so I don't know. STD Star Trek discussion. I like that, Kaiser Tortoise. I'm going to use that. Yeah, it's time for Darren and Jack's 3-hour STD.
Yes. Should get that looked at. Yeah.
Going over these super chats. B. Smalley, thank you so much for the $5 dono. Darren, have you ever considered just sending me a syllabus of comics to read? They are impenetrable. I loved your Absolute Martian Manhunter reco. Have you ever put together a list of like, if you don't know what the fuck is going on in comics, here's a couple of fun places to start?
I mean, back in the day, like when they were doing comic book movies in like the late 2000s, I would do like a little kind of syllabus of recommending like Batman or Green Lantern or Spider-Man or whatever. Haven't done it since. If people do want comic book stuff from me, there's a website, League of Comic Geeks, I think it is, but I'm on there at Darren Mooney, and you can search me there. And it's basically just every comic I read with a little blurb on it, basically, and my thoughts, recommendations.
Oh, so it's kind of like Letterboxd? But
yeah, kind of like Letterboxd for comics, basically, is what it is. Nice. So you can check that out, I guess, if you're interested in like what I'm reading at the moment or what I'm enjoying at the moment. But in terms of like just very basic stuff, I mean, read what you like, but like jumping on points, like Brian Bendis's Ultimate Spider-Man is just a great starting point if you want to get into Spider-Man. The X-Men stuff, like generally speaking, a good on-ramp is something like Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely's New X-Men is one of the books that got me into comics, if you like that. Batman is really great because Batman is, overexposed to a certain extent, but part of that being overexposed, that is it, Eric found it exactly, is that like Batman has so many accessible entry points, so it's very easy to read those. Superman has a couple as well, so like if you haven't read, again, Frank Miller, completely insane human being, but like really great heater of an artist in the 1980s, his Dark Knight Returns or his Batman Year One, if you want to read Batman. In terms of Superman, Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely's All-Star Superman is great as well. Yeah, those are good jumping on points, I would argue.
Do you, because you guys have been pretty high on this Absolute run, do you think that's a good entry place, or do you think it's better if you have a foundational knowledge of, I guess some of those characters, the foundational knowledge is just via pop culture osmosis? Yeah. Like Absolute Batman is very readable. Absolute Superman is very readable. I've not read Absolute Wonder Woman. I imagine that's the same. The Ultimate line is probably more complicated. But the Absolute line, just pick up the first issue of Absolute Batman or Absolute Superman and kind of jump on it, or Absolute Martian Manhunter to get back to the recommendations there. Cool. Yeah, so just all those are very, very good and well worth a read. I'm trying to think what else there is. Yeah. Nothing else.
Sorry, I'm literally just looking around. I'm just looking around the room, and that's it. Yeah.
It'd be overwhelming to look at a wall of comics and be like, "What the? I don't know where to start here."
That one right there,
yeah.
That guy, that's a winner. Ed Brubaker's Captain America. There we go. There's
you go.
An easy jump on ramp.
Easy peasy. County, thank you so much with a €5 dono. Disclosure Day was just a series of poor chase scenes. Then it finally got interesting, but the movie just ends right then and there. I will say it feels like a movie that like started before it started and ended after it ended, which part of me kind of likes the swing of that. I liked the like feeling wrong-footed at the start and needing to catch up with it, but I understand how people can be very frustrated if you just want to go to a movie and have kind of an experience that's tied up in a bow.
Yeah. I kind of did like it kind of reminded me a bit of like Minority Report of the like let's just explain this stuff as we go logic of it, where it's like, what does the wand do? How does the wand work? What is this? What is diving? We're just like, it kind of has the feeling of like William Gibson kind of what you call that stuff, early cyberpunk stuff. But like the thing about Gibson is like as his career, he invents cyberpunk, and as his career goes on, like reality catches up to him. And so like he was initially writing novels set in the far future, but eventually like he's in like the 2010s writing novels that are set back in 2007 because like the modern day has so overtaken him that his future is now past, if that makes sense. And like one of the things I really liked about Disclosure Day is that like it kind of feels like that for Spielberg, where it's like it feels like like when he was doing Minority Report in like 2001, 2002, that was a vision of the future. And like what's weird about Disclosure Day is Disclosure Day feels like Minority Report, but it's set today. And I kind of love that energy of it, where it's like the world has caught up to Steven Spielberg's future in a way I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Vactor, thank you so much for the dono. I mean, I just met these kids. Laughed so hard. I think that's in the flashback. Is that the Betty Gilpin line?
Yeah.
Again,
Gilpin, great. And again, just getting Gilpin to show up for an episode is great. Just great stuff.
What a good show. Widow's Bay. Watch it.
Widow's Bay. So much recommended. And by the way, like you probably somewhere have like a free 6 months of Apple Plus because you've bought some sort of Apple thing.
Pro.
Yeah.
Like you buy an iTunes gift card and you get 6 months free of Apple Plus.
And they count you. That's how they goose their subscriber numbers. Like if you buy an Apple gift card, you are counted as a subscriber for the purposes of their reporting.
So just double check all your things. You might already have us.
Also, when you take your free month,
anyway,
make a reminder to cancel it afterwards, or else you will be charged forever. Like I keep getting charged from Showtime, and I'm like, I don't think Showtime exists anymore. Why am I still being charged, and how do I stop this?
Yeah, I remember getting a recommendation in my phone of like what you want to watch. That's it was Memento or something, and it's like Memento is now on Lionsgate Plus, and I go to open Lionsgate Plus, obviously everyone's favorite streaming service, and the pop up is Lionsgate Plus is no longer available in your country, and I'm like, why did you send the email?
Yeah, why did you do this? You know where I am. If you're gonna steal my information, at least do something with it. At least be cognizant of what you're stealing.
Now I'll never open the Book of Power. Anyway, sorry.
The Book of Power.
There's so much. Look, there are worlds that you do not know about, Marty, on these streaming services.
Has the Book of ever worked with anything? Book of Eli didn't seem like it was a huge hit. Book of Boba Fett. Book of Saw.
Book of Saw.
You just can't do that.
How do you make it sound classy? We need to make this torture porn franchise seem classy. It's like, well, we got Chris Rock, and it's like kind of classy.
Yeah, one of the classiest men out there.
I got an idea.
My God, what if we put Booka? Jomo Slomo, thank you so much for another dono. Yay! Microsoft cut ties with IO Interactive on a fantasy game and plans to cut another in Arcane. Blade won't be allowed to ice skate up, down, or on a flat hill. Just referring to more Microsoft seemingly trying to sell off a lot of the studios that they went on a purchasing binge of over the last 10 years or so. The newest one being Arcane, the developers of Deathloop and Dishonored, who is working on the current Blade game, which may or may not still exist within a week. Blade is cursed, and I don't understand how. I don't understand how you just can't make a Blade thing, whether it's a movie or a video game.
Some of the costumes from Sinners are like from the Blade movie that never happened, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
It seems like such, and obviously, none of us here are
Hollywood executives,
privy to like the millions and billions of dollars that people are allocating here, there, and wherever. But it just seems like the movie that quite literally influenced all comic book movies, the shot in the dark that turned into a multi-billion-dollar franchise. It's just a cool dude killing vampires. Seems like the easiest movie to make.
Yeah. Don't know how it happens.
Yeah.
Insanity. Boo-ray, thank you so much for the dono. Will James Gunn do Legionnaires? I don't know what Legionnaires is. What's Legionnaires?
It's one of the spin-offs of like the Legion of Superheroes, again, because the Legion of Superheroes is tied to Superman, and because they do the whole reboot of like, well, in order for Superman to be special, he can't have been Superboy when he was a teenager, otherwise him putting on the costume as an adult isn't important. So he cut all the Superboy stuff, and cutting all the Superboy stuff means cutting the Legion of Superheroes, but people like the Legion of Superheroes. So you have these various attempts over the course of like Lobo from the Supergirl movie premiered in, I believe, an issue of Legion, which was one of the Legion spin-offs, and Legionnaires is kind of another of the can we do something that is like the Legion of Superheroes but without like the key Jenga block that is Superman being part of it, which is really fascinating. And it does feel like it kind of dooms the project, where, you know, there are Legion runs that I like. I really like the Great Darkness saga and the Curse, the 1980s run. I think it was Paul Levitz who wrote those. But like, yeah, the Legion for me has always been a concept where, like Supergirl, it always feels like it's trying to wriggle around a sword that editorial has like plunged through it, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
Fair.
Mopman, thank you so much for a dono. Going back to something we actually just talked about. Darren, any thoughts on the Absolute Batman cartoon? Yeah, they announced an animated, is it a movie or a series?
Series, CGI animated, I believe, and Scott Snyder's going to serve as showrunner, which is very interesting.
CGI animated. They haven't really done a lot of those in the DC's usually been 2D animation, right?
They did Beware the Batman, I believe, was one they did a couple of years ago, or about 10 years ago, which was not great. But again, and the thing about like Beware the Batman was that they were trying, which I really admired, is they were trying to get away from the traditional 1940s through 1970s Batman villains. And so they were doing things like using Professor Pig and Mr. Toad and all these characters who'd been created recently for Batman, but like hadn't really had a chance to break into the mainstream in the way that like Joker, Two-Face, and Penguin had. But I remember that not really working. I think the CGI Green Lantern show worked slightly better. The thing about Absolute Batman, which makes me excited, is the involvement of Snyder, where he is going to be serving as showrunner. Again, Snyder is, you know, he used to teach literature, but he's like a novelist and a comic book writer and basically edits a comic book line. And part of me is like, at some point, there has to be a point where you kind of like, you're doing too much and you need to slow down and you need to like focus on things. You're going to reach a point where you're kind of spread too thin. But part of me is also like, you seem to be good at it so far. So I'm willing to go with this and give a little bit of grace and kind of hope that this continues to work. Because I do honestly think like one of the things that I have been very impressed with the Absolute line is the fact that it is creator driven by Snyder. Like a lot of that is down to Snyder, by his own account, like approaching other writers and saying, would you like to do this? What would it take for you to do this? What would your idea for this be? What assurances would I need to give you that you would have the protection necessary for you to do the thing that you want to do? And like, how about I greenlight a 12-issue Martian Manhunter series with a 1960s art style about the decay of like contemporary American society? It's like, yeah, sure, that's grand. You guys do that. And even though it's a massive success, we won't extend it past. We will let you end the series on your own terms, because he is a creator. He's a writer himself. And I do think that there is a sense of, you know, integrity to that, like where he is a guy who is mindful of the fact that it doesn't just need to sell, it needs to be good. So I am optimistic about it, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, Batman's been, again, this is the overexposed Batman thing, but Batman has been very lucky with animated adaptations. Like Batman, the animated series, Batman Beyond, even The Brave and the Bold, which is lovely. So like Batman is not wanting for animated adaptations. Very curious about how the series adapts the somewhat more charged and angry political commentary of the comic, but we'll see how that goes. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
I'm sure the Ellisons will embrace it.
Yeah, they'll be like, yeah, this reinvention of the Joker as a billionaire tyrant. Yeah, we're all for that.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
Fun. Yeah. Just a couple more of these before we wrap up for the day. Boo-ray, thank you so much for the $2 dono. Did you watch Patton Oswalt's Tea and Scotch? I didn't actually know this existed. Apparently, a new
Patton's
stand-up
stand-up
special.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Patton's new stand-up special that he just released on YouTube, which I think is phenomenal. A lot of
That's
comedians are doing that now, of just like, here's it all, just watch it and enjoy. As someone who's a big fan of Patton, I have not watched it yet, but that's not an indictment on Patton. That's just an indictment on how I spend my time.
Because if your queue is anything like my queue, it is terrifying. And when you put something in there, rarely does it ever leave. Yeah. Like, honestly, if you just told me if you told me for a year all I had was YouTube, I'd be like, great. I could finally go back like 12 years to when I started this queue and be like, all right. And then you go back and the videos are just unavailable. And you're like, I wonder what this was.
Damn it.
I wonder what happened to this channel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't watch a ton of. I should like. I love stand-up comedy specials, but I just don't watch a lot of them. Like my mind doesn't ever go to. I'm going to put one of these on, which I should.
Yeah.
They're great. They're great.
Yeah, they're great stuff. Laughing, pretty good.
Humor, appropriately rated.
I thought we're doing all our hottest takes. Humor, pretty good. El Rampa, thank you so much for a $10 dono. Love that y'all are still going. No sarcasm. I would never take that as sarcasm. Oh no! Then Quintuple with $2 said, "You heard Marty, an 8-hour podcast. It's not an 8-hour podcast. We have one super chat left, and then we could go." It's been 3 hours. Nenda Toasty Tart, thank you so much. Now go watch In Fear and have a great day. Honestly, that's a good way to get me to remember to bump it up my queue is beginning of the episode and the end of the episode.
Getting into the end.
Yeah, that's kind of smart. So In Fear, I'll watch it before Testament.
Well, you have 3 weeks now. We have like a week off, so you have like an extra week.
I almost call the Testament of Anne Lee the Exorcism of Emily Rose. So that's where I'm at with my relationship.
You have to watch the Testament of Anne Rice.
Testament of Anne Rice. What's going on? Have you watched any of these Lestat shows? The Sexy Vampire? Yeah. What's going on? People like this Sexy Vampire.
It is on the list. It recently got added to Netflix, and I'm like, it's 3 seasons. I know I can manage it, but also there's a Christopher Nolan movie coming out, and I'm currently like speedlining those movies. And I checked my Letterboxd. My 3 most watched directors this year are Peter Weir, Steven Spielberg, and Craig Gillespie, the big 3.
I assume Nolan will overtake this pretty soon. I imagine.
I need to fix this. We need to go back.
Yeah, and you have to watch 7 Spider-Man movies before, or no, I guess 8, 9, maybe 10 if we're counting the team-ups.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I have to watch Civil War. I have to watch do I have to watch the Avengers movies for December?
I was thinking about. I'm gonna do some Marvel rewatching leading up to Doomsday. I haven't decided how much.
Yeah, I want to rewatch Thunderbolts.
Is Thunderbolts like the second best, or even whisper it maybe the best Avengers movie?
Listen, that first Avengers movie is
pretty good.
Significantly more special than you realize.
Yes. Yeah. No, it is a huge cultural event. Yeah. Like I appreciate it.
But like the movie itself is also just kind of beat for beat exactly what it needs to be.
And it is impressive how they juggle, ostensibly 5, 6, 7 main characters. So
yeah, I'm a big Age of Ultron enjoyer, Age of Ultron apologist. I liked that one a lot.
Yeah.
Thunderbolts is really good, is the thing. Thunderbolts is really
it doesn't have any Sokovia though. Real lacking in the Sokovia department.
Age of Ultron is very interesting. Counterpoint, Thunderbolts is very interesting and very good.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I love that none of us are going to bat for the Infinity War and Endgame.
Oh no, I like Infinity War and Endgame. I do think it felt like the harbinger. It was like at the end of it is like, oh no, Thanos is coming. But Thanos has already been defeated. But it's like, oh no, this isn't going to be good. What happens after this?
Yeah. It's hard to go to bat for like the final Avengers just because now we know what happened afterwards, which was fumble after fumble after fumble,
and because it commits so many of those, like it does the multiverse nonsense. It does it does the battlefield or third act. But it's one of those, we forgive it because it was an impressive culmination of 15 years of storytelling or whatever, 12 years of storytelling.
Like Infinity War is an incredible logistical accomplishment. Like I watch Infinity War and this sounds like faint praise, and it's not really faint praise, but it's like, I look at Infinity War and I think of like the skill it took to manage all of the schedules to make this happen is
Mm.
impressive. And I don't mean that in a small, like, movies are difficult to produce, and movies are difficult to produce in the way
Yes.
that, like, a single movie is difficult to produce, but a movie like this that is doing all of the stuff that it's doing with all the people that it's doing it with, I am impressed by the sheer logistical management of, like,
Absolutely.
Infinity War.
And at least its
And-
CGI final battle is in daylight and not surrounded by dust. So
there you go.
thank you for having
That's
a well-lit final battle. Appreciate that. Then Vactor, thank you so much for the $3 dono. This Lestat is so much better than Tom Cruise's.
Oh,
I don't think
wow.
you don't have to aim too high for that. Shout out to Tom
Did
Cruise.
Lestat feature in the Tom Cruise Digger trailer?
Did-
The Tom Cruise's campaigning trailer, which is quite
I don't know
impressive.
what
the
this
Digger
movie's-
trailer that is 3.5 minutes long, but only features 20 seconds of Digger.
What is going on with this movie? He's just
I
like
am
wearing a fat suit. I
So
don't know what's going on with
excited!
this movie.
I am so into it.
Tom Cruise is
Mike-
trying to act again, but he might be trying to act too much. You might be doing
hard.
too much
It's like-
acting.
It's cramming 2 decades of
Yeah.
acting into a single performance.
Yeah.
I'm just all of my pitches that week are going to be Tom Cruise pitches. That's all I'm saying.
Greenlit.
Yes, to all of them. Yeah.
Greenlit. Jack, what do we got
Yeah.
going on? What should people know about in Jack World?
We will be back on Thursday. Marty's continuing his Fallout 3 playthrough. So Marty, myself, and Jess Hoops going through the wastelands, shooting all the bad guys, having lots of fun. No Adventures Night this week, but if you haven't caught last Saturday's episode, make sure to check that out. A very good one. Casey Wosu came into Adventurers Night being the person with the least familiarity with any sort of role-playing, any sort of tabletop role-playing games, and consistently knocks the role-playing out of the park. So very...
Even when
we
he
get to
forgets
meet-
he has wings. Sometimes
Even
we
when-
forget we have wings.
So, you know, we get
Well
to
and
meet...
truly winging it, yes.
we get to meet Sigmar's family. A wonderful, wonderful episode that I really enjoyed making. So make sure you check that out. And that's what I got.
Heck yeah, Darren.
As per usual, like columns on Fridays and Mondays. So last week I talked about Sugar, which is back for its 2nd season, which I didn't recommend here, but I should probably recommend. It's charming. It's a vibe show. It's like it doesn't hold up to a great deal of scrutiny. No, but it's a show that I like to sit on the couch and like have a can of Coke and just be like, man, Colin Farrell driving a convertible through Los Angeles looks like a pretty good life.
Yeah.
It is really charming and really sweet. It is not like a huge plot-driven show. I'm not sure that like its storytelling is particularly great. I'm not sure that it ever reaches the highs of the film noirs that it's taking influence from. But I think Farrell is very good in it, and I kind of like the warmth of it. It's a nice movie to kind of relax with. It's a weirdly gentle movie it's a really gentle show for a show that is dealing with the stuff that it is dealing with. So I wrote about that on Friday, and yesterday, obviously, I wrote about Supergirl. And on the subject of Supergirl, big episode, the backdrop drop this literally this afternoon, taking a look at Supergirl, and in particular, like this interesting moment that Supergirl arrives at, where, you know, first of all, we look at Supergirl as an object. We talk about like Supergirl as its relationship to True Grit, and in particular like the morbidity that I find so fascinating about the movie. The thing that I find like really compelling is how committed it is to this idea of like decay, decline, death, and destruction. And then within that, the kind of the discussion that it has prompted, where one of the things that I found really interesting about, and we kind of alluded to it earlier in this episode, the way that this movie has been received. And like setting aside the angry people shouting on the internet who are going to angrily shout about any movie on the internet, particularly a movie that stars a woman. But if you look at like the actual kind of like cultural commentators who engage with this stuff for a living, I'm thinking of like Sean Fennessy, I'm thinking of Van Lathan. A lot of the reaction to Supergirl has been kind of weirdly existential. And
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting for like what the movie is and what the movie is about. And I think what's interesting is that the movie is itself kind of in a discussion about that, where, you know, it is a movie that I think if you look at it is kind of engaging with the idea of like, what does it mean to be a superhero movie at this point in time? But also like, what does it mean to be a superhero movie at a time when, you know, the genre is in decline, the studio is in decline, and maybe even like the entire nation whose image is tied up in the romantic fantasy of the superhero is in decline. And like what it is like to try and process that through the lens of a fairly, to my mind, like straight down the middle kind of like attempt at a crowd-pleasing superhero movie, where like this is not something like James Mangold's Logan, where it's trying to be like an artsy-fartsy black and white kind of cut Oscar-nominated screenplay, March release, or rated film. This is a PG-13 Prime June release movie from the director of like I, Tonya, The Finest Hours, and Cruella. So I am like fascinated by the idea that that becomes a vehicle for exploring like where the genre is at the moment. I hope it's a good. I hope it makes a good argument. The title of the video has perhaps been a bit controversial. I did throw out a bunch of ideas in terms of like what we could title it. I think it is a movie about like the end of superheroes as an existential concept. There's been a bit of pushback from people being like, that's a sensationalist title. I hope it earns it, is what I would say to that. I hope that by the time you get to the end of the video, you understand the argument that is being advanced about what that represents and what I think Supergirl is in conversation with. And I also hope that I don't come across as being like angry and shouty and like vindictive about Supergirl. I hope the fact that I do have like a weird affection for its dysfunction is evident in the video that I made.
I think like looking at the historical relevance of what True Grit meant for the Westerns, which were the popular movie medium at the time, and the fact that Supergirl goes out of its way to ape the format of True Grit speaks so highly. And I think you put it all together really well in the video.
Yeah. I also don't think you ever come across as like screechy or overly negative or anything. On the internet, you might have the most nuanced takes.
Female one too many times is all I will say.
Incredible.
No, Darren.
I do feel like Grogu. Like I feel like the Mandalorian and Grogu was as close. And even then, I'm kind of like, but let's talk about Jon Favreau. He was so happy making those Cubanos.
Yeah. Martin Scorsese seemed like he had a good time in the 30 seconds he was in the movie, right? Awesome. So yeah, check that one out. And then just a couple last super chats. Nick Dole, thank you so much for the $5 dono. Infinity War had 14,605 possible ways to be crap, but we found the single future and it was amazing.
Yeah,
that's a nice way to put it. And Mr. 12345W, look who showed up. I don't know who that is. Welcome to the Green Gang. Welcome to the Green Gang. In terms of other stuff, as we mentioned, no other stream from Second Wind this afternoon. Normal streams tomorrow. Yahtzee Tries will be back. Normal, fully Ramblemanic and everything with Yahtzee back. And as Jack mentioned, Fallout on Thursday. All that normal stuff. Remember, if you are a member of the $5 tier or above on Patreon, not only do you get those aforementioned columns from Darren twice a week, but you also get exclusive videos. We just did a fun group video that we put up, Jack and myself and a bunch of other folks, where we made a tier list of the Dark Souls 1 bosses, judging them by how good of a roommate they would be. That is the first of 3 parts. We filmed one on Dark Souls 2, and we are filming one on Dark Souls 3. Tune in for that and all sorts of other nonsense. And of course, if you haven't voted, you can vote on Yahtzee's Summer Game Drought game tomorrow for the next 24 hours. Yeah, I believe voting is closed when Fully Ramblemanic drops tomorrow morning. So get those in. But thank you all so much. Everyone who tuned in live, sent through those super chats, any member of our Patreon, and of course, anyone who just listens to the podcast. We appreciate you all. So, and again, as a reminder, no show next week and no show on the 14th. We'll be back on the 21st. Normal time
with all our Moana thoughts.
Yeah, with all Moana thoughts and a little bit of the Odyssey. Just a little bit.
They're both movies about boats, right? And they're both movies about wayfinders. Yeah.
I haven't seen Moana, but I'm going to assume it's a movie about boats.
You think about it?
So for Darren, Jack, and Eric, this was Marty. This was the Rewind episode number 49. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesdays, and we'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Only